Chapter 58. At this moment, Zhou Xiaoduo returned to the classroom and received a hero's welcome. Brother Zhou. Long Yuxing's eyes were shining. You're too awesome. How did you do it? Everyone in the class was so excited that they were about to die. Each and every one of their faces were flushed. It felt so good to vent this anger. It felt so good that he couldn't take it anymore. They only realized it when they heard Long Yuxing's question. That's right, Zhou Xiaoduo is only ranked 19th in our class, slightly below average. How did he become so awesome? He beat up the whole class by himself? These 3 days. Zhou Xiaoduo crossed his legs and said proudly, I participated in a special training of a hidden expert. I heard that it was arranged by the Emperor of the Yinwu Empire. That's about it. Life is unpredictable. You can't be envious. SK. 35 middle fingers were raised in front of him. Everyone believed that Zhou Xiaoduo had participated in the special training. It was understandable that experts trained specially and even pushed their blood and tidied their meridians. Otherwise, he wouldn't have improved so much. But to say that it was organized by the Emperor and so on, that would be ridiculous. Our Phoenix City is far away from the Emperor. Zhou Xiaoduo's bragging was too unreliable. If it was really organized by the Emperor, it wouldn't have been Zhou Xiaoduo's turn. At this moment, Qin Fangyang walked in with a smile on his face. Today, I must praise all of you. Qin Fangyang stood on the podium with a smile on his face. To praise all of you. It's not because Li Qinglong was beaten up that you all stood up for him. That's what you should do. It's not worth praising because all of you are one. It's also not because Zhou Xiaoduo stood up for all of you and beat him up. That's what you should do. It's also not worth praising. What I want to praise is that all of you didn't know that Zhou Xiaoduo would succeed. All of you were already injured, but because Zhou Xiaoduo went, all of you followed him. This unwavering determination is what deserves my praise. It deserves to be remembered by me as a teacher. This is the true meaning of unity. Even if it was the bravery of an ignorant man, it wasn't rational, and it wasn't worth advocating. However, this was the true feeling of camaraderie. In the future, even if all of you go to the battlefield, I won't worry because all of you will never let your comrades charge into battle alone. It's my, Qin Fangyang's success and my pride to be able to teach such students. Not bad. It's not embarrassing to be weaker than others. But to be able to put generosity into action is something to be proud of. Qin Fangyang's face looked. Children, I'm proud of you. Now, group's healing. Qin Fangyang left. Once again, everyone's recuperation. After a while, class ended. The class was dismissed class. Oh, we're leds, rushed. Teacher Qin had clearly said that the grudges between students had to be settled after class. I'm a good student, so I naturally have to listen to my teacher. In front of class 1's door, the leisurelies with Xiaoduo specially moved a chair over and sat there in a relaxed manner. Every time a student from class 1 came out, he would kick them back. How dare you bully Li Qinglong? Do you know who Li Qinglong is? Is he not from our class? He's even a guest history teacher specially hired by the school. Do you know what it means to be an accomplished teacher? Li Qinglong is an accomplished teacher. Do you know what it means to be a teacher for a day, a father for life? Your class 1's foot brains are only filled with muscles. You definitely don't know this, but Masters was kind enough to tell you that even if he only teaches you for a day, he's still your teacher and a father for life. You bullied Li Qinglong and beat up Li Qinglong. That's the same as bullying your father. You're a bunch of unfilial bastards who don't care about human relations. Zhou Xiaoduo blocked the door boldly. The moment he opened his mouth, he was full of righteousness and reason. Think about what else you've done. Not only did you beat up your father, but you also insulted your father's teacher. You even chased after our class and beat up your martial uncles, martial aunts, and martial uncles. What kind of behavior is this? You're deceiving your teacher and betraying your ancestors. You're insane. Rebellion. You're really rebelling. Now Masters was teaching you a lesson to clean up the school so that you won't bring shame to the school and harm the common people in the future. Cheng Fangji, hurry up and come out. Masters wants to talk to you about life and ideals. At the same time, He'll give you a clear path. With your disregard for human relations, deceiving your teacher, and betraying your ancestors, there aren't many jobs in this society that are suitable for you. The students of Class 9 shouted behind him, Cheng Fangji, get out here. Talk about life and ideals. My boss is looking for you. How would Cheng Fangji dare to come out? In the face of such a ferocious and terrifying person, Cheng Fangji would never dare to come out even if he was healthy, let alone being seriously injured. The other seated students of Class 1 also had a look of humiliation on their faces. It was as if their eyes were about to spit fire. Suddenly, a wave of people burst out. More than 10 people rushed out at the same time. However, Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. The star steps under his feet made him seem like he was traveling in the void. His body drew a mysterious trajectory. Puff, 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 puff. More than 10 people were kicked to the ground almost at the same time. Then, he kicked them one by one and they all flew into the classroom. Want to go out? Sure. All of you can climb through the window. Zhou Xiaoduo blocked the door just like that. It was as if he alone could hold back 10,000 people. The students of Class 1 could only stare at him helplessly. However, since this was a classroom for spiritual energy cultivation, it was naturally sealed. How could there be a window to climb through? I'm not going in either. I don't want to give you all an excuse to say that I'm causing trouble. I know. Class is over, and you all want to go to the toilet. Well, you can just fight your way out of here. A girl clamped her legs and said sullenly, Zhou Xiaoduo, every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. Go and find whoever caused this trouble. Why are you stopping us from going out? What's going on? Master Zhou is teaching you how to be a person. He's teaching you how to be reasonable and how to respect your teachers. Zhou Xiaoduo shook his head and crossed his legs. He said, I'm here to bully you. Do you all understand now? You're being unreasonable. Reasonable? Zhou Xiaoduo chuckled. I'm here to bully people, not to reason with them. The situation quickly escalated. The whole class couldn't leave the classroom. This was not a small matter. Mu Yunfeng quickly rushed over, and Qin Fangyang also leisurely came over with a teacup. Compared to Mu Yunfeng's hysteria, Qin Fangyang was simply like an old man watching a show. The two form teachers confronted each other again. Tell your students to leave. What's the point of blocking the door? Students should solve their own problems. Teachers can't interfere. Qin Fangyang. Mu Yunfeng was angry. You're being unreasonable. Qin Fangyang smiled coldly. Unreasonable? What's there to be reasonable about? Li Qinglong went to your class to lecture. This was the school's decision. No matter what Li Qinglong's identity is outside of class, he's going to lecture. That's his identity as a teacher. Your students insulted their teachers, talked back to them, and beat them up. What kind of behavior is this? Are they reasonable at all? Mu Yunfeng was tongue-tied. My students went to reason with your students. Not only did your students refuse to apologize, they even beat them up with their martial prowess. They didn't even let it go. They chased into my class and beat up all the students. Is this being reasonable? Qin Fangyang smiled coldly. What? Now that the matter is in your hands, my students are blocking your door and not letting your students out with their strength. When your students can't come out, you're going to reason with them? Mu Yunfeng, your double standards are too ridiculous. Qin Fangyang's mouth curled into a mocking smile. I'm here now. I'll say it again. Students should solve their problems. If you want to interfere, I'll accompany you. But if you dare to lay your hands on my students, I'll kill you. Mu Yunfeng was so angry that his face turned green. Qin Fangyang's words, word by word, spread to Class 1. All the students in Class 1 were speechless. Reason? The precondition for reason was usually based on the strength and background of both parties, and the result of compromise. This was especially true for martial artists. The proportion of benevolence, righteousness, and morality was too small. If it wasn't for Zhou Xiaoduo in Class 9, they could only endure being bullied and beaten up. But now that there was Zhou Xiaoduo, the situation was reversed. The grievances that were originally borne by Class 9 were transferred to Class 1. This was the cycle of karma, and karma was not pleasant. This was the truth of reality. Although Qin Fangyang was quarreling with Mu Yunfeng, he also said all the reasons that needed to be said. He could be considered a sensible person. In other words, he was still a relatively reasonable person. And his student, Zhou Xiaoduo, was a headache. This guy was not reasonable at all. If you reasoned with him, he would talk with you with his fists. If you ignored him, he would teach you a lesson. He would take care of both sides. Qin Fangyang, you can only teach such a pain in the ass. Mu Yunfeng was extremely angry. Pain in the ass is good. Qin Fangyang smiled. I'm very proud of my pain in the ass student. Mu Yunfeng choked. In the end, Zhou Xiaoduo blocked the door until the next lesson. Hearing the bell, Zhou Xiaoduo stood up and respectfully bowed to Mu Yunfeng. Teacher, you've worked hard. This student doesn't dare to disturb teacher's lesson. I'm going back to class. I'll visit again after class. Students of Class 1, see you later. Let me tell you, this matter is not over. Chapter 59. Mu Yunfeng's face turned green. When he entered the classroom, he saw that all the students in the first class were looking at him with expectant eyes. He sighed and said, "Hurry up." Many students rushed out of the classroom to go to the toilet. Some girls were crying as they ran. They felt so wronged. This was the first time he saw such a hooligan. He blocked the door and didn't let them go to the toilet after class. Even beating someone up was better than this. Zhou Xiaoduo felt the slight warmth of the greedy wolf's heart in his arms. He was lost in thought as he thought about the fortune of all the students in the first class. He faintly felt that something big was going to happen. All of them had bad luck, and all of them looked ferocious. Moreover, the greedy wolf's heart faintly reacted. Zhou Xiaoduo didn't know why, nor did he know what it meant. But he knew one thing. The greedy wolf's heart came from the Umno Alliance, the biggest enemy of mankind. If there was a reaction, it wasn't a good thing. Now, it obviously didn't erupt. But Zhou Xiaoduo obviously wasn't worried. Because Master Zhou had his own way of dealing with it. The class was over again. The end of this class meant the end of school. Qin Fangyang had just announced the end of the class when Zhou Xiaoduo rushed out at once. Dang, dang, dang. Then, all the students in the 9th class rushed out one by one. Among them, the little fatty Li Qinglong rushed out so fast that he even knocked Qin Fangyang down. Obviously, this group of people was eager to watch Zhou Xiaoduo beat someone up. They didn't care about anything else. Mu Yunfeng announced the end of the class and walked out of the classroom first. He saw Zhou Xiaoduo standing at the door with a smile. "Hello, teacher. Thank you for your hard work. Teacher, take care." The veins on Mu Yunfeng's temples were throbbing. "Zhou Xiaoduo, what do you want to do? Are you done yet?" Zhou Xiaoduo giggled and said, "Teacher, what are you talking about? This student has always been very polite to my teachers, and I don't dare to have any complaints. This is the way of a disciple. And because of this student despises those bastards who betray their teachers and ancestors. I came here to correct the various disobedient behaviors of the students here. It's all about the criticism and self-criticism between students." Mu Yunfeng's eyes were spitting fire. "I want to see your self-criticism right now." Hearing this, Zhou Xiaoduo pretended to be shocked and said, "Teacher Mu, what are you talking about? Even if you want to accuse me, you should at least have a reason. Every time this student sees you, I have always been respectful and courteous. I really don't know where to start with this self-criticism." Mu Yunfeng sneered. "You respect me a lot? Then leave this place immediately. This is the greatest respect you can give me." I can't do that. It's already after class." Zhou Xiaoduo said slowly, "It's also after class. It's no longer within the scope of the teacher's authority. Even teacher Qin Fangyang can't control what I do during this time. This is not about respecting the teacher, it's just personal freedom." Mu Yunfeng's face became more and more livid. It was not that he didn't want to make a move. He wanted to restrain or drive away Zhou Xiaoduo, but Qin Fangyang was watching from the side. Even if he shamelessly made a move, Qin Fangyang would definitely not stand by and watch. Besides this, Mu Yunfeng could only do nothing. Therefore, under the gaze of the two head teachers, Zhou Xiaoduo blocked the door of Class 1 for half an hour. It was a pity that the students of Class 1 were already scared of Zhou Xiaoduo. They were even more aware of the gap in strength between them. Although they were getting angrier and angrier, No one tried to rush out. This made Zhuo useless and somewhat boring. Half an hour later, Zhuo snorted at the students of Class 1, turned around and left. See you tomorrow. No hurry, no hurry, there's still tomorrow. Even if they wanted to force him out and make a scene, they had to vent their anger first. In the classroom, Cheng Fangji faced the resentful eyes of the whole class. After a long time, he said with an apologetic face, "Everyone, don't be angry. This matter happened because of me. I will give you an explanation. Tomorrow. My family is in the elixir business. Tomorrow, I will give each of you a star essence elixir as compensation for today's matter." Gu Yuanheng, who ranked first, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "No need. From the beginning to the end of this matter, we were indeed in the wrong. It's hard to argue. Aji, you have given us a lot of star essence elixirs for free. Let's forget about it this time." Cheng Fangji's eyes flashed with a strange and inexplicable look. He said, "It's okay. It's okay. My family has a lot of these things. If I can't give you a little compensation, I will feel very sorry." Gu Yuanheng frowned, and a touch of surprise flashed in his eyes. He said, "Actually, I feel that something is not right about what happened this morning. No, it should be too wrong. Why was everyone so violent this morning? Why couldn't anyone control their temper? That's what Xiaoduo is indeed tyrannical and unreasonable, but at least there is one thing that teacher Qin Fangyang said. That little fatty Li Qinglong came to teach us. No matter what his identity was before, the moment he stood on the platform, he became our teacher. A teacher for a day, a teacher for life. Why did we contradict him face to face, and then insult and even beat him up? None of this makes any sense." Another female student, whose face was bruised and swollen, retorted, "Gu Yuanheng, why are you pretending to be a big bad wolf? You speak as if you didn't do anything." Gu Yuanheng frowned and said, "It's exactly because I did that I find it strange. A country has its own laws, and a school has its own rules. Why would I do that to a teacher? This is something that I can't understand. What's more, I didn't realize that something was wrong until just now. Doesn't that mean that something is very wrong? Li Qinglong came to teach many times before. Why didn't he do this before? Li Qinglong's cultivation level is low. This is true. However, he is an expert in the history of human development. That's why he has the authority to teach us. What right do we have to look down on him? What right do we have to be unable to control our emotions and be disadvantageous to him?" Gu Yuanheng thought hard. Could it be that this is the abnormal fluctuation of the mind when one is about to break through to martial master? Cheng Fangji lowered his head. An inexplicable look flashed across his eyes. At the side, Gu Yuanheng said, "Zhu Yun, Chao Feiyu, let's go." The two people he pointed at also had a thoughtful look on their faces. Hearing this, they followed Gu Yuanheng out of the door, smiling bitterly at each other. Today's matter. It's so fucking frustrating, Gu Yuanheng said as he walked. Frustrating? How is it frustrating? It's not frustrating at all. I called the two of you to give me some advice. What's going on today? Everything is so strange. The three of them walked away as they talked. Some of the other students were deep in thought, some were full of indignation, and some even scolded Xiaoduo for bullying the weak and tyrannical. One by one, they dispersed. Everyone had left. Cheng Fangji was the only one left. Mu Yunfeng walked in slowly. Cheng Fangji pursed his lips and lowered his head. That was too rash, Mu Yunfeng said angrily. Cheng Fangji nodded and admitted his mistake. Then he said fiercely, "But this was Xiaoduo. I will not let him go. This matter is over." Mu Yunfeng said in a low voice, "Tomorrow, bring the real star essence pills." "Don't bring them." Cheng Fangji nodded. When Xiaoduo returned home, his parents were whispering to each other. "What are you talking about? Why are you so happy?" Xiaoduo said happily, "I have great news to announce." Xiaoyan rolled her eyes. "Another piece of good news?" Changlu and Wu Yuding immediately stopped whispering and poked their heads out from the kitchen. "Today, I am officially promoted to the top seat of the class. Number 1. Xiaoduo's face was full of pride and satisfaction. He was high-spirited and proud. Although it was not official yet, he was definitely going to be the top seat. Tomorrow, it would be official tomorrow. Even being the top seed of the whole grade was a sure thing. The so-called strongest class was suppressed by him for an entire day. They were not even a match for him. The path of the strong was so lonely. Always alone in the first place. Sigh. Hearing this good news, Zhuo Changlu couldn't help but smile. Top seat? Wu Yuding stepped out with a spoon in her hand. Top seat? Zhuo Xiaoduo laughed and puffed out his chest. Yes, top seat. Number 1. The arrogant ones were a group of people. Wu Yuding, who had received confirmation, was even more delighted. It's all thanks to your sister, Zhuo Xiaoduo. If your sister didn't ask her master to give you special treatment, would you be the top seat? Would you be the top seat? Wu Yuding said happily, last time, you were only 19th. This time, you soared to the top seat. This is called an iron tree blooming and a rotten wood growing into a talent. How much effort did she put in to make such a big improvement? Zhuo Xiaoduo was even more dumbfounded. How did I become an iron tree? Wu Yuding was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. Zhuo Changlu, hurry up and buy some food and 2 bottles of wine. Let's celebrate tonight. Let's celebrate that our Xiaoduo has finally been enlightened after receiving guidance from a great master. Zhuo Changlu walked out of the kitchen, digging into his pocket as he walked. When he saw Wu Yuding glancing at him from the corner of her eyes, he couldn't help but tremble. He almost fell for it. Zhuo Changlu pretended to take out money and said, Come. I didn't bring any money. Who will pay for the food and wine? Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoyan. I'll pay. Zhuo Xiaoyan was very straightforward. I'll run the errands. Zhuo Xiaoduo was also very straightforward. It was fine as long as he didn't pay. 1. I woke up early this morning. My head is dizzy. Please recommend me. 2. This chapter is not broken. There are many words. Please recommend me as a reward. 3. Too many people say that I'm handsome. Please admit it. Chapter 60. Hence, Zhuo Xiaoduo took the money and went to buy some food and wine. However, he felt that something was amiss along the way. Aren't we drinking to celebrate my progress? Why am I the only one working in the family? Zhuo Xiaoduo couldn't figure out the reason even after buying the food and wine and returning home. He could only conclude that his parents' thoughts were different from his own. Well, they still didn't understand the mentality of the strong. The strong. They should bear more responsibility. The atmosphere of the celebratory banquet that night was unusually harmonious and full of joy. Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding had gone through the early days of worrying about their gains and losses. Now, they were looking forward to Zhuo Xiaoduo becoming stronger and more outstanding. The stronger, the better. The stronger he was, the greater the chance of overcoming danger. Today, the surprise that Zhuo Xiaoduo gave them made the couple proud. Seeing this, Zhuo Xiaoduo decided to add icing on the cake. He took out the stone of astral souls that he had just received and said, Dad, these are all for you. Sell them to support your family. Zhuo Xiaoduo puffed out his chest and tried to look normal. He said reservedly, My son has grown up. Leave this family to me in the future. He actually acted like the head of the family. You still want to usurp the throne? Zhuo Changlu gave him a sidelong glance and said with a faint smile, I'm not dead yet. Zhuo Xiaoduo laughed dryly and said, Long live father and unify the Jianghu. Zhuo Changlu's eyes widened when he saw the package. He was a little surprised. These are all high-end goods. Zhuo Changlu was naturally an expert in identifying the stone of astral souls. Just by looking at the stone's shape and color, he could instantly tell that these stone of astral souls were top-grade goods. There were good things hidden inside. Although he didn't know how good they were at least mid-grade. It could only be high and not low. To those professional stone gamblers who like to gamble on star spirit stones, if a star spirit stone of this level was taken out, their eyes would light up. It was not a problem for them to throw away 1,000 gold coins. It was really a rare high-end item. They weren't shocked by the high quality, but by Zhuo Xiaoduo's collection. In an instant, he felt a sense of relief. They didn't raise this son for nothing. Where did you get it? I read people's fortune before, Zhuo Xiaoduo explained. In the end, they all went to the north and avoided death. They also benefited a lot. When they came back, they specially sent me a gift to thank me. That's why I specially presented it to Father to make you smile. Zhuo took the opportunity to flatter him. Other than the Stone of Astral Souls, there was also a reward of 20,000 yuan. He didn't say this out loud. He secretly added it in his heart as a report. If he said it out loud, it would definitely be kept for you. I'll kindly accept it. Zhuo Chonglu looked reserved. But your fortune-telling ability. Zhuo Zhonglu pondered for a moment. Then, he said, if we can really see something, then we should study it a little more. In this world, saving a life is saving a family. Things like gifts are secondary. Yes, Father. Zhuo Xiaoduo agreed obediently. Then, he stole a glance at his parents' faces. Without using any cool luck points, there was still nothing abnormal. The couple's face was that they were safe and had a worry-free life. It could be considered an excellent face in the trend of their luck path. Leave early after school tomorrow. Go to the shop and help me unload the car. Zhuo Chonglu said, intentionally or unintentionally. Yes, Father. Father, I'll go too. I'm free tomorrow. Zhuo Xiaoyan raised her hand. Don't go. Zhuo Chonglu rolled his eyes. Are you going to help me? You'll only cause me trouble. Zhuo Xiaoyan pouted. Zhuo Chonglu was not being pretentious. When Zhuo Xiaoyan went to Zhuo Chonglu's shop half a year ago, the shop owners next to them were all amazed. They all wanted to marry Zhuo Chonglu. Zhuo Chonglu had a headache about this. In the end, he said that his daughter would follow her master to cultivate in the mountains. Perhaps it would be decades before she could leave. If his daughter came again, it would be a slap in the face. Besides, don't you think your son is worthy of my daughter? Besides, not only do I have cabbages, but I also have pigs. Now that's what Xiaoyan wanted to help. How could Zhuo Chonglu agree? Let the dog go. Those heavy jobs are not suitable for you girls. While eating, Zhuo Xiaoduo noticed that Wu Yuding kept looking at his pocket with a strange look. His heart skipped a beat. So he found an excuse and went back to the bedroom to put down the money. After thinking about it, he was still worried. He took out his private stash of money from the emptied dictionary and moved it to a new place. Look for an opportunity to change it to a brand new serial number. Looking at the thick stack of money, Zhuo Xiaoduo thought to himself with satisfaction. Then he went out to eat. Seeing Zhuo Xiaoduo go in and out like a thief, Wu Yuding, Zhuo Chonglu, and Zhuo Xiaoyan all had meaningful looks on their faces. Zhuo Xiaoyan frowned slightly as she ate. She was thinking about many things. The dog told those people to go north. It should have happened 3 days ago. At that time, the special training hadn't started yet. After I told Master about Tan Lang, on the first night of the special training, Master went to the north of the city. It was probably because Master went that the north of the city became a relatively safe area, which led to the safe return of these people. If that's the case, even if we don't consider the sequence of events, it proves that the dog really has the ability to predict the future. During this period of time, Tan Lang first appeared in Phoenix City. Then, the 7 kills also appeared. The 7 kills of Tan Lang appeared one after another. Then, it's impossible for the Army Destroyer Shaman sect to not be here. But why would these 3 sects come to Shao Phoenix City? What are they doing here? Phoenix City. I really can't think of anything that could attract them. But since they're here, they must have their reasons and goals. It's just that Master and I overlooked it or didn't think of it. So, this reason needs to be investigated carefully. Only when we're sure of their goals can we launch a counterattack strategy. If Tan Lang and Army Destroyer Wolves gather, they won't be attracted by a small target. To send out Tan Lang's hearts so recklessly, combined with the number of people killed, I'm afraid it's not the first time they've done this. If it's not the first time, then they've done it many times. If they've done it many times, then there should be cases and clues to investigate. For the 7 kills to be able to kill so recklessly, they must have a place to hide. And to allow them to hide and kill like this, it must be a force that can't be done in a short period of time. So, they must have planned for a long time to be able to do it. But how long is this long time? Zhuo Xiaoyan thought as she ate silently. Normally, 3 to 5 years wouldn't be enough to reach this stage. This means that the 7 kills, Wolf, and Army Destroyer Wolves have planned for Phoenix City for at least 10 to 20 years, or even longer. If that's the case, Phoenix City must be hiding a huge secret, and this secret is the key. Only by finding out this secret can we have a chance to uproot them. On the other side, Wu Yuding looked at her daughter, whose eyes were empty. There was not a single grain of rice left in her bowl, but she was still using her chopsticks to eat. She couldn't help but push Zhuo Xiaoyan's shoulder. "What are you doing? Is the air delicious?" The next day, Zhuo Xiaoduo woke up early and left for school an hour in advance. Along the way, he could clearly feel the difference. From time to time, there would be high-level martial artists flying around in the sky, observing every corner of the city. On the streets, there were also many people who were selling popsicles or candied haws. There were also people who were strolling in and out of this shop and that shop. These surveillance methods are too lousy. How much better can they be than real-time surveillance? Zhuo Xiaoduo shook his head and sighed. With this kind of investigation, those murderers must be retarded to be caught by you. Lax on the outside and tight on the inside is the best way to investigate a case, sigh. Zhuo Xiaoduo walked all the way to second high. Countless strange gazes were cast at him from all directions, mixed with inexplicable surprise and curiosity. After all, Zhuo Xiaoduo had single-handedly blocked the entrance of an entire class, not allowing the students to enter or leave, especially when the students of that class were known as the most outstanding 50 students of their year. This was absolutely a rare event that had never happened before. Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't care about this. He held his head high and strode into the school. In a few steps, he arrived at the door of Class 1 in the warrior area. Seeing that there were only 3 or 4 people inside, he didn't say anything and went up to them, kicking them out of the classroom. Get out, get out. Class hasn't started yet. Who allowed you to come in now?" Then, he casually pulled out a chair and sat at the door. He crossed his legs and basked in the rising sun. He sighed from the bottom of his heart. A beautiful day has begun again. In the afternoon, someone praised me for being handsome again. I'm very unhappy. Don't you see that my readers are even more handsome? And they vote for me every day. They don't vote for anyone else. I'm too handsome. Chapter 61. As time passed, the students of Class 1 arrived one after another. However, when they saw the situation, they were naturally dumbfounded. "Zhuo Xiaoduo, are you done yet?" The beautiful girl whose nose was broken by Zhuo Xiaoduo yesterday was the most indignant. She rushed up and questioned him. Until now, there was still tape on her small nose. She hated it so much. Zhuo Xiaoduo put on a fake smile and said, "Students solve their own problems. You have already dealt with everyone in my class except for me. As long as you deal with me, there will naturally be no problems. Otherwise, I will have to deal with all of you. As for whether you are done or not, it's up to me to decide. I'm right here. Think of a way to deal with me. Or you can wait until the bell rings before you enter. How simple is that?" Zhuo Xiaoduo laughed extremely happily. It's useless even if your teacher comes. The time before class is the time to settle students' grievances. Only we can settle it ourselves. After listening to Zhuo Xiaoduo's arrogant speech, the students of Class 1 who had already arrived were extremely aggrieved. "Zhuo Xiaoduo, are you being reasonable?" "I'm not being reasonable." Zhuo Xiaoduo raised his head. "I realize that it's meaningless to be reasonable. As long as I can beat you and deal with you, why do I need to be reasonable? We are all unreasonable people. Don't say that we are noble. If you were reasonable, would you have come to my class to beat people?" This sentence made everyone's chest ache. "You beat people in my class. Of course, I have to beat you back. How simple is that? But you started it first, so I'm not satisfied after beating you up once. I haven't vented my anger yet. That's why I have to beat you up several times." Zhuo Xiaoduo sat on the chair and swung his legs. "Wait patiently. When I've vented my anger, this matter will come to an end. I announce." Zhuo Xiaoduo stood up and jumped onto the chair. He stood up straight and said, "From now on, as long as they are from your class, I will beat them up every time I see them. I will beat them up every time I see them. Please don't talk to me about being reasonable in the future. I've never been reasonable." His voice was so loud that it was deafening. At this moment, there was already a large crowd outside. There were both teachers and students, densely surrounding a large area. At a glance, There were at least a few hundred people, and even more people were rushing over. On a tall building, behind the glass window, Hu Ruoyun and Li Changjiang stood side by side. Hu Ruoyun looked helpless, while Li Changjiang looked pensive. This is too surprising. This kid has already broken through to the martial master level. Li Changjiang took a deep breath. What kind of progress is this? 5 days ago, he entered the warrior class. 5 days later, he broke through and became a martial master? Hu Ruoyun was shocked. He broke through to the martial master level? Otherwise, how could he have defeated the entire class one by himself? No, even if he just broke through, he wouldn't be able to do this. I'm afraid. His actual combat strength is already at the level of an intermediate martial master. Li Changjiang took a deep breath. Ruoyun, this student of yours is not simple. Hu Ruoyun smiled from the bottom of her heart. That's great. That's not bad. Li Changjiang looked at his wife. Look at his style. How is he different from a hooligan? Aren't you going overboard? Hu Ruoyun retorted. If the students of the class didn't go too far and humiliate and beat up the teachers, why would Zhou Xiaoduo take revenge? In this matter, the right is clearly on Zhou Xiaoduo's side. The one who provokes first will be punished. This sentence is absolutely correct. Now that the situation has developed to this point, it's no longer a matter of who is right and who is wrong. Li Changjiang said with a headache. The focus of the problem now is that Zhou Xiaoduo won't let it go. He won't let it go. Most people would have stopped after what happened yesterday, but looking at Zhou Xiaoduo now, I'm afraid that he will continue to make trouble. How can the right still be on his side? If what he said is true, he will stop making trouble when he feels good. The situation will definitely get out of control. Li Changjiang had a terrible headache. When he feels good is up to him. What if he suddenly feels bad after a few days? What if he blocks the door and fights again? Do you think that Zhou Xiaoduo won't do something like that? He's a devil in the heterodox path. Sigh. Li Changjiang sighed. Hu Ruoyun thought about it carefully and felt that what Li Changjiang said was very likely to happen. According to Zhou Xiaoduo's personality, it was not surprising that he would do something like that. Even if the situation had calmed down for half a year, it was not impossible for him to fight again when he wanted to. It's useless to tell me this. Hu Ruoyun turned her head. You have to find Qin Fengyang. Qin Fengyang is the class teacher. Honey, why don't you understand? If Qin Fengyang could control Zhou Xiaoduo, why would I waste my time talking to you? Li Changjiang was furious. Qin Fengyang said yesterday afternoon that the matter would end here, but didn't Zhou Xiaoduo still come today? And don't you know what kind of person Qin Fengyang is? He's extremely protective of his children. Let's not talk about him scolding Zhou Xiaoduo. Even if I just scold Zhou Xiaoduo, he would fight with me. Do you believe it? Li Changjiang sighed. He felt that he did not have any sense of accomplishment as the principal. Do you understand now? In the whole second high, the only person who can stop Zhou Xiaoduo is you, my dear wife. Li Changjiang looked at Hu Ruoyun. Okay, I'll try. I'll go and persuade this child. Hu Ruoyun sighed. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Zhou Xiaoduo sat on the chair with his golden saber and stared at the door of the classroom. On the other side, under the shade of a tree, Qin Fengyang stood with his arms crossed. His face was calm and indifferent as usual. Well, if anyone dares to come out and fart, old Qin, will break my rule today. Do you really think I don't know how to beat people up? Opposite him, there was Mu Yunfeng, who was fuming with anger and was on the verge of asthma. A little further away from them, there were 10 big men squatting in a neat row. They were grinning and watching the show. Who else could it be other than Lu Jiansheng and his brothers? They had arrived early and were just here to watch the show. If Zhou Xiaoduo had the upper hand, it would be fine. But if someone came to interfere, the 10 brothers would definitely gang up on them and fight. I've been annoyed with that Mu guy for a long time. He always has a gloomy face and looks like an idiot. This time, he kicked an iron plate. He's an idiot, Lu Jiansheng said. Isn't that so? Everyone, keep a close eye on him. If he dares to make a move, we'll definitely make a move before Qin Fengyang and give him a good beating. This kind of opportunity is hard to come by. Once we miss it, it won't come again, said the second brother. It's settled then. Little Mr. Zhuo is so impressive. Lu Jiansheng clicked his tongue and was full of envy. Why didn't I think of doing this when I was in school? Even if you thought of it, do you have the ability? Didn't you know the standard of your class back then? How dare you show your face like this? If you can't beat the shit out of you, then you didn't eat spinach. The second brother looked at his big brother with contempt and said enviously, "Look at this big brother. This style, this method. It feels so good to stand up for his brothers." Lu Jianxing's face suddenly turned red and his eyes widened. "Deng Lauer, you've been fucking arrogant recently." The crowd slowly parted and Hu Ruoyun slowly walked over. Then, everyone realized that Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was arrogant and domineering just a moment ago, had suddenly become well-behaved. His legs were no longer crossed, and without waiting for Hu Ruoyun to come closer, he stood up properly and rushed forward a few steps. Teacher Hu, this was the person he respected the most in school. Naturally, she was also the person he feared the most. "Xiaoduo, what are you doing here? Why aren't you going back to class? Be careful not to be late." "It's not time yet." Zhuo Xiaoduo scratched his head and laughed. "Teacher, why are you so free to come here? You've already fought and made a fuss about this." "It's about time," Hu Ruoyun said with some difficulty. "You see, there has to be a solution to this. If you keep making a fuss, it won't be good for you and others. How about we compromise?" Zhuo Xiaoduo smiled happily. "Teacher, you've asked me a question. I've actually thought of a solution. How about transferring all the students in this class?" "Transferring all the students?" All the onlookers staggered in unison. This was too fucking ruthless. This was Class 1, the most outstanding 50 students in second high. If they were to transfer all of them with just one sentence, wouldn't the school's higher-ups go crazy? "Just tell me what you want." Hu Ruoyun looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo and said softly. Zhuo Xiaoduo looked embarrassed. After a while, he muttered, "I haven't fought enough." He really hadn't fought enough. Now that he had lost enough blood, he didn't know if it would reflect any problems. If he withdrew now, he felt that all his previous efforts would be wasted. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo couldn't jump out and say it directly. He was fully aware that if he said it, he would definitely die. This matter was too big. It was so big that his life was insignificant in this matter. "I realize that my readers are becoming more and more handsome and beautiful, because not only did they give me their recommendation tickets, but they also made hearts for our characters. You guys are so handsome. I love you guys to death." Chapter 62. Xiaoduo. Hu Ruoyun yelled softly and sternly. Zhuo Xiaoduo finally swallowed his anger and said, "But since Teacher Hu has come forward, I have to give her face. But I'll say this first. Class 1 must give Class 9 an explanation for this matter. Give all of us an explanation. And give Li Chenglong a personal explanation." I didn't intend to ask them for any explanation. Since they were unreasonable first, then I'll continue to be unreasonable to the end. Beating these people until they graduate is a solution that suits me very well. But now, Teacher Hu, you've spoken, so I only want an explanation. But this explanation must satisfy me. Zhuo Xiaoduo said with grievance. "Teacher Hu, I've given in too much. I feel so wronged. But if I'm not satisfied, I'll still come here to block the door. The cause of this matter is very serious. It's not something that can be solved with just an apology. What do you think, Teacher Hu?" Hu Ruoyun could only smile bitterly. "You beat up the whole class until they can't go to class, and you still look so wronged. It's really hard on you. I really don't understand why you feel wronged. I know that every one of you hates me now. You can't wait for me to die." Zhuo Xiaoduo raised his head. The morning sun shone on one side of his face. Half of his face was bright, and the other half was flickering with shadows. "Instead of hating me, it's better to put all your hatred into cultivation. When you're stronger than me one day, you can come and find me. You're welcome to take revenge. I won't reason with you, and you don't have to reason with me. Okay, that's it." Zhuo Xiaoduo kicked the chair over and walked over with his head held high. When he reached the front of Class 1, he suddenly raised his hand and a resounding slap landed on Cheng Fangji's face. This slap was too ruthless, causing Cheng Fangji to spit out a mouthful of blood. Along with the blood, 3 of his teeth also came out. Brat, behave yourself in the future. After that, Zheng Dei, who was standing next to Cheng Fangji and had been scolding him the most these past few days, was also kicked 3 meters away by Zhou Xiaoduo. If you spew shit again, I'll teach you what a harmonious society is every day. After she finished speaking, she completely ignored the angry gazes of the class and Cheng Fangji's murderous glare. She turned her head and walked back to Hu Ruoyun. She smiled shyly and said, "Teacher, I didn't have to trouble you with such a small matter. Really, I'll send you back." Hu Ruoyun was also worried that Zhou Xiaoduo would continue to cause trouble, so she took the opportunity to pull Zhou Xiaoduo away. The people who were left behind fell silent for a long time. After a long time, Mu Yunfeng then cursed angrily, "Qin Fangyang, you've taught a good student." Qin Fangyang said lightly, "Thank you for the compliment. It seems that I have indeed taught better than you." "You? What about me? At the very least, my student is beating someone up, while your student is getting beaten up." Qin Fangyang turned around and laughed loudly. "Children, time for class." Ouch! All the students in the 9th class let out a collective howl and scampered back to class. There was no more drama to watch, so everyone naturally left. Lu Jiansheng and the rest stood up regretfully and left as well. It was really not enough, but all the students in the 1st class were still standing there in a daze. "Why aren't you going to class? What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for that brat to come back?" Mu Yunfeng was already flustered and exasperated, so he spoke without thinking. At the side, Gu Yuanhang, who was ranked 1st, said calmly, "Teacher Mu, although Zhou Xiaoduo went overboard, the cause of this matter was our fault. We still have to give this explanation." Gu Yuanhang was beside him. Zhu Yun and Chao Feiyu looked at each other and nodded. Behind the 3 of them, there were more than 20 students who were also deep in thought. Mu Yunfeng's expression changed. He vaguely felt that he was about to lose control. He secretly glanced at Cheng Fangji. "Are you trying to say that you're afraid of Zhou Xiaoduo and you're going to give in?" Cheng Fangji covered half of his mouth and looked at Gu Yuanhang in disbelief. "In order to not be beaten up and blocked at the door, you're going to give an explanation?" Zheng Dei roared, "Gu Yuanhang, I misjudged you. I didn't expect you to be so spineless." "This has nothing to do with spinelessness," Gu Yuanhang said. "As long as you've done something wrong, you have to face your mistakes." The beautiful girl whose nose was broken by Zhou Xiaoduo looked at Gu Yuanhang angrily. "Gu Yuanhang, you're the number 1 in our class. How can you be so spineless? Are you still a man?" Gu Yuanhang looked up and said calmly, "Wang Shiding, whether I'm spineless or not, you won't know. It's because I'm a man that I have to face my mistakes. I'm giving an explanation for my mistakes, but not for Zhou Xiaoduo. The humiliation that Zhou Xiaoduo gave me, I'll get it back sooner or later. If you want to go, then go. I won't go anyway." Wang Shiding exploded completely. Gu Yuanhang looked at Wang Shiding with eyes full of pity. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Wang Shiding, your aptitude is only above average. But, because of your outstanding appearance and beautiful appearance, everyone will give you some leeway wherever you go. This is the privilege of a beautiful woman. But in this world, the privilege of a beautiful girl doesn't apply to everyone. There are many people who don't care about beauty. Zhou Xiaoduo is one of them. Coincidentally, so am I. Your beauty can be your capital, but it's not your foundation. Only strength can be relied on forever. If you can't face this point, how can you go on the road of cultivation? If you're smart enough, you should have been awakened by Zhou Xiaoduo's punch. If you're still immersed in your beauty and think that everyone should give you leeway, then your achievements will at most be nothing more than a vase. A vase that will be outdated at some point." After saying that, Gu Yuanhang ignored Wang Shiding, who was trembling with anger, and walked toward Class 9 with big strides. Behind him, Zhu Yun, Chao Feiyu, and the rest of the 20 people followed. "We're not admitting defeat. We're facing our mistakes bravely. As a man, if you make a mistake, you have to admit it. But I'll still hate Zhou Xiaoduo. Me too. One day, I'll get my revenge. I'll definitely get my revenge. That day will definitely come." Zhou Xiaoduo sent Hu Ruoyun back and ran back to the classroom. Class 9 immediately burst into cheers as if they were welcoming a hero. The cheers lasted for a long time. Teacher Qin was as calm as ever. It was unknown whether he was comforted or not. After a while, seeing that it was almost time for class, Qin Fangyang walked up to the podium slowly. Suddenly, he heard a knock on the door. Then, the classroom door opened. 22 students from Class 1 filed in, looking dignified. Zhou Xiaoduo stood up subconsciously. Why are you still not satisfied? You came all the way here. You've got guts. What we're going to do now has nothing to do with you. We'll settle our scores in the future. Gu Yuanhang said coldly. Then, he said to Qin Fangyang, Teacher Qin, what happened yesterday morning was our fault. Today, we'd like to apologize to Teacher Qin, Li Chenglong, and all the students in Class 9. 22 people lined up in 3 rows and bowed in unison. We're sorry, Teacher Qin. Then, Gu Yuanhang turned around and shouted, Zhou Xiaoduo, get out of the way. You don't have a share in this. Zhou Xiaoduo scratched his head. Why don't you apologize to Class 9? Gu Yuanhang's eyes almost spat fire. I said, we'll settle our scores in the future, but not now. Fine, fine, fine. I'll get out of the way. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes. Who cares about your salutes? He still got out of the way. I'm sorry, students. Another bow. Then, 22 people came in front of Li Chenglong and bowed in unison again. We're sorry, Teacher Li. It's our fault. We offended you yesterday. Please be magnanimous and don't hold it against us. The little fatty was a little dumbfounded. He didn't know what to do and didn't know how to react. Gu Yuanhang said, no matter what your status is now, you're our teacher when you're teaching us. We were disrespectful and impolite to you, so we offended you. What happened yesterday was our fault from start to finish. We're sorry, Teacher Li. Please forgive us. Li Chenglong's eyes became misty. His voice trembled as he said, I accept your apology. On the other side, Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes. How useless. He accepted it just like that, Gu Yuanhang, and the 20 students stood up and turned to Qin Fangyang. An apology can't make up for anything. So, we've prepared something else. Here are 2 bottles of astral energy pills. Other than Zhou Xiaoduo, everyone in Class 9 will get one. There are also 340,000 star dollars. Similarly, other than Zhou Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong, everyone will get 10,000 star dollars. This sword is our apology gift to Teacher Qin. I heard that Teacher Qin's original sword was broken in a battle in the past. So, I found a new one from my dad's armory last night. I hope Teacher Qin doesn't mind. This is an ancient book with a total of 18 volumes. It records some strange stories and legends. It has a history of a few thousand years. It's a gift to Teacher Li Chenglong to express our sincere apology. Gu Yuanhang bowed again. I'm sorry. Qin Fangyang frowned. It's good that you have this attitude. You can take these gifts back. You should be punished for your mistakes. You should also show sincerity in apologizing. It's just a small token of appreciation. There's no reason to take it back. Gu Yuanhang said, we'll take our leave. Zhou Xiaoduo scratched his ears and cheeks. Damn it, every single thing had to be specifically pointed out, except for Zhou Xiaoduo. How much hatred do they have for me? 10,000 star dollars per person? 1 astral energy pill per person? Isn't this apology a little too sincere? That's a lot of money, but there's nothing for me. Sob sob sob. Qin Fangyang pondered on the podium for a while. When Gu Yuanhang and the others were about to leave, he suddenly asked, Gu Yuanhang, I don't know much about you, but I'm confident that my eyes aren't blind. With your character and the way you conduct yourself, you should have stopped what happened yesterday morning the moment it happened. Things shouldn't have escalated to such a stage. Gu Yuanhang's face showed a hint of understanding. He stopped and turned around. Thank you for your compliment, Teacher Qin. Actually, we also feel that everything that happened yesterday is very strange. Although we don't dare to say that we're gentlemen as martial artists, we still have some basic integrity. For example, regarding Li Chenglong's matter, whether it's the student's attitude towards the teacher or the evaluation of his cultivation strength, we can't fight with him. However, we don't know what happened yesterday morning, but everyone was exceptionally angry. In the end, when we thought about it, we felt that it was inconceivable and extremely puzzling. Gu Yuanhang's face was full of deep thoughts. Qin Fangyang's face became more and more doubtful. Zhou Xiaoduo, on the other hand, looked up at the ceiling with an indifferent expression. Gu Yuanhang turned to look at Zhou Xiaoduo and frowned. Zhou Xiaoduo, you're very good at fighting. It's true that you defeated us. However, you're only the best at fighting among us students. It's also because of the school's rules that you're allowed to be presumptuous. I want to tell you something seriously here. The consequences of your actions this time are very serious. We're here to apologize because we did something wrong. It's not that we don't hate you. If we're already like this, it's hard to say what will happen if someone is narrow-minded to begin with. After being beaten up by you, it's really hard to say what will happen. Let me give you a piece of advice. You must be careful these few days. I'm not saying this to scare you. I really don't want anything to happen to you. If something really happens to you, how can we take revenge on you in the future? Gu Yuanheng waved his hand and said, our apologies have been delivered. We have to go back to class. Teacher Qin, Teacher Li, and everyone in the 9th class, goodbye. As soon as he finished speaking, 22 people walked out in a line. Zhou Xiaoduo was deep in thought. Qin Fangyang looked at him, also deep in thought. You suspect that Gu Yuanhang will use his family's power to deal with you? Qin Fangyang asked. I'm not really suspicious of Gu Yuanhang. Zhou Xiaoduo was still deep in thought. He answered almost subconsciously, judging from the behavior of the people in the 1st class today, they're either extremely thoughtful or have really realized their mistakes. Especially Gu Yuanhang, who can be said to be straightforward and upright. I'm more willing to believe that he'll treat me as a whetstone to sharpen himself at all times. Even if it's only based on these 2 reasons, he won't use his family's power to deal with me, Zhou Xiaoduo said. So, I really don't suspect these people who came today. I'm just curious. They're acting so modest and rational now. How could they do such a thing yesterday? After listening to Zhou Xiaoduo's words, Qin Fangyang's eyes became more and more profound. Suddenly, a trace of shock flashed through the depths of his eyes. Qin Fangyang's body trembled, as if he had thought of something. Suddenly, he said, today, the star array will operate on its own. You guys go ahead and cultivate. I have something to do outside. Qin Fangyang hurried out of the door. He didn't even have time to distribute the things on the table. Can I ask for a recommendation vote for this 4,000-word chapter? Big bosses, please support a newbie author like me. Chapter 63. The door slammed shut. Zhou Xiaoduo coughed dryly and looked at the pile of money, swallowing his saliva. Come, come, come. Everyone, take the gifts. I'll distribute them. Don't mix them up. Fatty, take your ancient books. Leave Teacher Qin's sword here. Long Yuxing stood up. Brother Zhou, this money is all yours. Just give us the pills. We all know very well that if it weren't for you, they probably wouldn't have come to apologize. The strong are respected. It's never just a saying. Wan Lixiu also stood up. Yes, Zhou Xiaoduo, take the money. At the same time, don't worry. They are not the only ones with families. If they want to deal with you, I don't care about others. I will definitely support you. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the girl who was beaten up by Long Yuxing every day, and the corners of his mouth twitched. This girl actually had a family? They said from beginning to end that I don't have a share. I won't do such a shameless thing. Zhou Xiaoduo righteously said, hurry up and distribute it. You don't know how jealous I am of you. Money is like dung. Let this dung disappear from my eyes quickly. In the end, he swallowed his saliva and said, but you can come to me in the future. Heh. Everyone burst into laughter. In the end, Zhou Xiaoduo forced Long Yuxing and himself to help distribute the celestial essence pills. Little fatty Li Qinglong, Teacher Li, was already holding the pile of ancient books and laughing happily. Principal. On the other side, Qin Fangyang rushed into the principal's office like a whirlwind. Li Changjiang and Hu Ruoyun were leaning against each other when they separated like lightning. Qin Fangyang was a little speechless. What a coincidence. How could it be so coincidental? Hello, Principal. Teacher Hu. Qin Fangyang knew the relationship between Li Changjiang and his wife. Teacher Qin, do you have something important to say? Principal Li coughed and straightened his lapel in a sanctimonious manner. Hu Ruoyun's face was flushed red. She said goodbye and slipped out. It's class time now. If you don't have anything important. Seeing that Hu Ruoyun had left, Headmaster Li's expression changed instantly. This Qin Fengyang, what is he doing here instead of going to class? It wasn't easy for me to convince Ruoyun to come to the office, but before I could do anything, you messed it up. I suspect that something big is going to happen. Qin Fengyang's face was extremely solemn. Something big has happened. Pujuan might be in the school. Pujuan? Are you serious? Li Changjiang's eyes bulged. She stood up immediately. Her face, which had been slightly flushed, immediately turned pale. What evidence do you have? Why do you say that? Li Changjiang's eyes almost shot to Qin Fengyang's face and bounced back. If there was really someone from the Army Destroyer Shaman sect in the school, it would be too terrifying. There's no concrete evidence to confirm it. I mean, I suspect it. Qin Fengyang's face was gloomy. Yesterday morning's incident and today's incident are all fishy. Think about it carefully and see if there are any signs in that regard. As Li Zhangjiang's mind raced, fine beads of sweat appeared on his face. He pressed Qin Fengyang's shoulders with both hands and pushed him onto the sofa. Sit down, have a cup of tea, organize your thoughts, and speak slowly. You must speak in detail. Tell me all the things that you think are wrong. Li Changjiang also brought his own teacup over and made tea for Qin Fengyang. He said, a few nights ago, there was a series of bloody killings outside the city. The higher-up suspect that it was done by the Seven Kills faction, but they are not sure yet. And there's news from the governor's mansion that the spiritual thought goddess found the clone of the greedy wolf disciple. If there are really traces of Pujuan in our school, that's a situation of killing the greedy wolf? This is the rhythm of chaos. Li Changjiang took a deep breath. Teacher Qin, if there's something suspicious, even if it's just a suspicion, you have to say it all. It doesn't matter if your suspicions are wrong. It's better to nip it in the bud. Don't worry and speak boldly. I'll bear the responsibility. Qin Fengyang panted and said, I'm organizing my thoughts. Just now, in a flash, I was shocked. If you really want me to speak in detail, I don't know how to start from the beginning. Li Changjiang stood up and paced back and forth in front of Qin Fengyang. He said, Pujuan, according to legend, belongs to the ancient Big Dipper, ranked 7th. In ancient times, its name was Tianguan, and its scientific name was Yaoguang. Later on, the people of the Umno Alliance established the Army Destroyer Shaman sect. They took the meaning of martial strength, killing, and advancing courageously. It's also said that the founder of the Army Destroyer Shaman sect used some kind of secret technique to absorb the power of the Army Destroyer Star for his own use and strengthen himself. Qin Fengyang organized his thoughts and said slowly, Principal, you don't have to be too concerned. Even if the situation of killing the greedy wolf is really in Phoenix City, the headquarters of the three sects are in the Umno Alliance. At most, the situation in Phoenix City is caused by the strength of the disciples of these three shaman sections. It has nothing to do with the main force. Li Changjiang's face turned green. What are you saying, old man? You don't have to be too concerned? What kind of place is the school? It's a place to nurture talents. If it's in this most basic area and it's affected by the Army Destroyer Shaman sect sorcery, something big will definitely happen in the future. The situation hasn't completely gone out of control yet. If we act rashly, we might be suspected of alerting the evil. However, an internal investigation is very necessary. Qin Fengyang said in a low voice. Li Changjiang obviously thought further and said, You should tell us your findings first. Although an internal investigation is necessary, we still need to have a certain direction. It's a coincidence that the cause of this incident is the incident where Li Chenglong was beaten up. When Li Chenglong went to class, he was humiliated and beaten up by the students. Using this as a trigger, it led to a conflict between the two classes and the incident where Xiaoduo blocked the door. Originally, because of Teacher Hu's intervention, the incident was temporarily put to rest. Qin Fengyang said, I know all these things. I don't feel that anything is wrong. Li Changjiang asked in surprise. If that's all, I don't feel that anything is wrong. However, just now, the top student of Class 1, Gu Yuanhang, brought 20 or so students to Class 9 to apologize. Qin Fengyang said, based on their words, Gu Yuanhang and his group apologized sincerely. It's very rare that the estrangement between us has been removed. However, it was also at this time that Gu Yuanhang pointed out something strange. It's the incident where they beat up Li Qinglong yesterday morning. It's really too bizarre. The emotions of everyone in Class 1 were not right. They were impulsive and irritable, but they were calm. After thinking about it, it's not enough to describe it. Qin Fangyang said, "They are all geniuses." After Gu Yuanhang came to apologize, I was also thinking about this problem. Gu Yuanhang said frankly that even if there are differences in temperament in Class 1, there's no way they would collectively be so irritable and impulsive. Humiliating and beating up a teacher is even more ridiculous. As for rushing to Class 9 after beating up someone, other than the word inconceivable, there's no other way to describe it. Qin Fangyang's voice was very low. Li Changjiang's face also became gloomy. If one didn't look into it deeply, it would just be a fight between students. However, once one analyzed it carefully, one's hair stood on end. Yesterday, Zhou Xiaoduo beat up the students of Class 1. It can be said that he was very heavy-handed. Almost everyone in Class 1 was injured. Among them, Gu Yuanhang and the others were seriously injured. However, it was also because of this that many students who had lost a lot of blood gradually calmed down after being filled with anger. And calming down after bleeding is another big abnormality, because ordinary people would only be angrier after being beaten up and bleeding. Qin Fangyang said, according to them, after they calmed down and thought about what happened, they felt that something was wrong. It felt like there was someone inciting them in their minds at that time. Their anger was burning, and they couldn't control it at all. If those violent emotions can't be vented, they will only accumulate. There must be a way to vent them, and Li Qinglong just happened to be the target of the first wave of venting. After that, beating up Long Yuxing and Wan Lixiu, and even ganging up on the members of Class 9, were all intended to vent. It seems that only in this way can I feel better. After that, after being beaten up by Zhou Xiaoduo, they were bleeding and injured. But they regained some clarity. After school, Gu Yuanhang felt that something was wrong. When he returned home, he asked his father to comb his meridians and even made a mirror of clarity. Only then did he get rid of the negative effects. I believe that this is enough to prove my suspicions. Mirror of clarity? So the negative effects really exist? Li Changjiang's face was so gloomy that it looked like water was about to drip out. Yes, it really exists. Gu Yuanhang said so. Many other students had similar situations. This can no longer be described as a coincidence. So, you think that this is the negative effects caused by Jun Pajuan's berserk fighting spirit? It hasn't reached the level of berserk fighting spirit. Qin Fangyang said, if it's berserk fighting spirit, someone would have died long ago. I think it's something like the soul enchantment. Li Changjiang paced around and said, does Mu Yunfeng know about this? Qin Fangyang smiled faintly. Why would I look for Mu Yunfeng to talk about this? The mood of the students in the class fluctuated so much, but the homeroom teacher didn't notice. This can't be explained by negligence. We're all teachers. There's no need to say this clearly. After teaching for so many years, whether the students are normal or not, isn't it obvious? Qin Fangyang's meaning was obvious. His target of suspicion was Mu Yunfeng. Today, I want to look at the card for our Feng family's 10th anniversary event. I'm quite satisfied. The event will start on the 2nd of June. Brothers who haven't followed my public account, please follow it. VX public search for Wind Dominates the World and you'll find it. Don't miss out on the prize. So please recommend me. Chapter 64. Li Changjiang went silent. After a long while, he said clearly, Mu Yunfeng, male, embryonic breathing realm, 57 years old, native of Wang Family Ditch, Mu Family Town in the southern district of Phoenix City. Father died early. Mother is 89 years old. Family has a brother and 2 sisters. They are all normal people who have started their own families. Brother's wife found Li family village in the neighboring village. Her name is Li Yuzhen. She has a son and a daughter. The boy is called. Now they are separately. Going to school. Brother's family. Eldest sister's family. Second sister's family. Li Changjiang recounted everything related to Mu Yunfeng's family as if he was very familiar with his family's treasures. He even recounted in detail the academic results and martial arts prospects of his siblings' children without leaving anything out. As the principal, he knew every teacher's background like the back of his hand. If needed, he could even recite the family tree of some important teachers. Mu Yunfeng, previously in the martial arts school of No. 17 Middle School, practiced to the innate realm and traveled outside. He went to Phoenix Tail City, Antai City, Nanji City, did various jobs such as adventuring, exploring, mining, hiring, escorting. When he was 48 years old, he came to apply to be a teacher in No. 2 Middle School. Vice Principal Gao recommended him. He started from the martial arts apprentice class. Until today, he has taught 9 batches of students. During this period, he was investigated 4 times. No problems were found. There were no problems with his family background. Li Changjiang frowned and said, I can even recite Mu Yunfeng's birth certificate number. How could there be a problem? Where is the problem? Qin Fangyang laughed coldly and said, Mu Yunfeng's dereliction of duty is already a huge problem. If it has anything to do with our suspicions, it won't just be a small problem. Li Changjiang was silent. How could he not understand the deeper meaning of Qin Fangyang's words? Mu Yunfeng's dereliction of duty was a problem in itself, and dereliction of duty could be the starting point of another problem. It couldn't be ignored. Old Qin. Li Changjiang hesitated and said, After school today, I will find Gu Yuanhang and the rest to test them and confirm their situation. The negative emotions in Gu Yuanhang and the others have mostly been removed by themselves. There's not much point in looking for them. Qin Fangyang said calmly, We might as well start with the children from the poorest families. Don't touch the top 20 in Class 1 for now. Zhou Xiaoduo's door-blocking incident has indirectly revealed the hidden danger of our school. Although the danger has not been fully exposed, any sudden action will only alert the enemy. Li Changjiang immediately understood what he meant and said, I understand what you mean. I'll arrange it later. He pondered for a moment and said, Old Qin, do you think Zhou Xiaoduo might have noticed something? Are you deliberately reminding us? Qin Fangyang was stunned for a moment before he muttered, That guy? Does he look like such a good person? Li Changjiang was also taken aback. He nodded and said, It doesn't look like it. But doesn't he know physiognomy? Qin Fangyang was stunned again. Li Changjiang reminded him, but don't drag him into this matter. Don't tell anyone that he knows physiognomy. Otherwise, this child is done for. Qin Fangyang felt a headache coming on. Zhou Xiaoduo had bragged so much about himself. How could he help him keep it a secret? Was he trying to make things difficult for Qin Fangyang? The two of them drank tea for a while to finalize some details. Teacher Qin got up and left. He was fine now. However, Headmaster Li's good mood was long gone. All that was left was a terrible feeling in his heart. He was thinking about a problem. If Mu Yunfeng was really problematic, then were the students he had taught all these years also problematic? How many of them were problematic? Was there a problem with Vice Principal Gao Yi who had introduced him? Moreover, how many people had Vice Principal Gao introduced to the school? Were there any problems with those people? Were there any problems with the classes that they had taught and the students that they had taught? This was simply a dense and huge net. Not to mention touching this net, just thinking about it made Li Changjiang feel dizzy and shudder. Please don't let there be any problems. His whole heart was trembling. After a while, he calmed down and began to arrange the things that he had discussed with Qin Fangyang. On the other side, Zhou Xiaoduo pretended to be modest and thought of all kinds of ways to shout, I want to be humble, I want to be low-key, I want to be low-key, I don't want to be flamboyant. He was still pushed to the top of the class by everyone. Originally, Long Yuxing and the others had moved down by 1 place. Now, the ranking of the 9th class was Zhou Xiaoduo first, Long Yuxing second, Wan Lixio third, Yu Moyan fourth, and Li Zhangming fifth. In any case, the original 18 people had all moved down by 1 place. After 19 people, they still had their original positions. This situation was immediately seen by Qin Fangyang when he returned to the classroom. Although he had already expected it, he was still shocked. Yo, Zhou Xiaoduo, you've adjusted yourself to the top seat just like that? Qin Fangyang joked. He had originally planned to adjust the ranking before school ended today. Zhou Xiaoduo was beaming with joy, and his face was filled with pride. He clearly couldn't hold it in anymore, but he was still trying his best to restrain himself. Yes, yes. Thanks to Teacher Qin's great efforts in nurturing me, your student, I, can be considered to have some small achievements. Ha ha ha. How do you feel? Why don't you give a speech as the top seat? Let's not talk about anything else. Just the thought of sitting in the top seat makes me feel good, good from inside out. Although I keep reminding myself to be low-key and humble, it still feels good. Zhou Xiaoduo's mouth was so wide that it almost reached his cheeks. His eyes were almost invisible. It must be hard for Long Yusheng. After being in this seat for so long, he still hasn't become arrogant. Ha ha ha, his temperament is really good. He has a bright future and development. This child has a bright future. Long Yusheng, who was on the right of Zhou Xiaoduo, was very confused. What's going on? If you want to show off, then show off. Why drag me into it? What does it have to do with me? I was just squeezed out by you. Do you think it's very glorious? In your mouth, I have become this child? As the top seat of the class and the top seat in the future, you must set a good example for the students. Qin Fengyang rolled his eyes and said, of course, I will definitely set a good example for the students. I, Zhou Xiaoduo, will be a good example from now on. Zhou Xiaoduo was overjoyed. He seemed to be too excited and began to talk nonsense. Let's start class. Qin Fengyang couldn't listen to him anymore. After school at noon, Zhou Xiaoduo didn't slack off. He stayed in the classroom to practice, but was called out by Qin Fengyang. You got an opportunity and broke through the martial master level? Qin Fengyang directly pointed out Zhou Xiaoduo's current level with his hands behind his back. Yes. Do you want to report it now, or wait? I want to wait. Zhou Xiaoduo thought of Mu Yinyan's words and said, most of the factors for my breakthrough this time came from an opportunity. If I broke through too quickly, my foundation will inevitably be unstable. I need to consolidate and sharpen for a while. I'm not in a hurry to go to the martial master class. That makes sense, but you can't achieve the effect of sharpening in the class. Qin Fengyang said, Long Yusheng and the others can't provide you with any combat experience. Even if they gang up on you, it's meaningless. Zhou Xiaoduo instinctively felt that something was wrong. He shrank back and said, Teacher Qin, actually I can finally Qinglong. Sure enough, Qin Fengyang said, you're my student, but in fact, it's only been a few days. I haven't taught you anything real. I haven't fulfilled my duty as a teacher. How about this? I'll spar with you every afternoon in the ranking competition to consolidate your current foundation. Your teacher doesn't have any great abilities, but I'm still qualified to spar with you and sharpen you. Zhou Xiaoduo screamed and begged, Teacher, listen to me. Actually, I was planning to spar with Li Qinglong. Spar with Li Qinglong? How dare you say that? Qin Fengyang's face turned serious. Get lost. Zhou Xiaoduo went back in fear and trepidation. Suddenly, he didn't have the slightest bit of anticipation for the ranking competition in the afternoon. Originally, he had already imagined how he would show off this afternoon, how he would look down on his peers, how he would train all his juniors, how he would be alone against many, and how he would hold off the pass alone. Zhou Xiaoduo had even thought of the posture he would use and the slogan he would shout when he acted pretentious. In the end, he was beaten back by Qin Fengyang's words. Spar with Teacher Qin? How am I going to spin this afternoon? Why is my life so bitter? Zhou Xiaoduo was melancholy, depressed, and distressed. In the afternoon, when the ranking competition started, the tradition of the second place challenging the first place was cancelled. Long Yusheng didn't even look at Zhou Xiaoduo and continued to fight with Wan Lixiu. On the other side, Yu Moyan pulled Li Zhangming over and had a lot of fun. Among all the students, only Li Qinglong had nothing to do as usual. He didn't have an opponent, no one would challenge him, and he didn't plan to challenge anyone else. Seeing Zhou Xiaoduo turn his gaze over, before he even walked over, the little fatty shouted, Brother Zhou, I was just teasing everyone in class that day. My mouth is a little cheap, Don't come over. If you come over, I'll lie down. I'll really lie down. Seeing that Zhou Xiaoduo was really walking over, Li Qinglong simply lay down on the ground and screamed, Ah, you're killing me. It hurts. I'm being beaten so badly. Zwishaoduo's eyes almost popped out. Damn, this guy stole my job. How am I going to act after this? I originally wanted to do this when Teacher Qin was fighting. Whoever he wanted would come over. Qin Fangyang was already standing in front of Zwishaoduo. Come, Zwa. Show me your true ability. Come, students, take out your recommendation tickets. Chapter 65. Zwishaoduo retreated slowly. Mr. Qin, you. With a loud bang, Qin Fangyang's swift kick landed on Zwishaoduo's stomach. Zwishaoduo let out a loud cry. His butt was thrown back, his head was thrown forward, and his feet were thrown forward like a cannonball. He flew out more than 30 meters. Li Chenglong, who was looking up, said in surprise, "Is this the legendary but backward, wild goose landing stance?" Zwishaoduo looked so cool when he was kicked. "I've been wanting to do this for a long time." Qin Fangyang laughed. He shook his neck and quickly caught up. "This fraud. I've been wanting to beat him up since the day I saw him. Today, I finally got what I wanted." This scene shocked the students of Class 9 who were fighting against each other. Then, the whole field was shocked. Even the 4 invigilators on the high platform were stunned. They watched Qin Fangyang beat up their students. Zwishaoduo was reduced to a punching bag, flying here and there. He finally stabilized himself. He didn't dare to counterattack, but defended with all his strength. However, he was still sent flying by Qin Fangyang in one move. For a long time, Zwishaoduo was basically in a state of being off the ground. After your breakthrough, you must have gone through training to be able to control your current combat power freely. Your moves are also very skillful. In general, you're already qualified to be a martial master. Qin Fangyang said as he fought. However, that's only suitable for a normal spar and confrontation. If it's used in a real battle, it's used in a fight. It's completely useless. A real battle, a spar, a confrontation, and a fight have completely different meanings. What you'll face in the future is a real fight with real swords and spears, not a harmless spar. The power I'm showing now may seem fierce, but it's only slightly stronger than yours. However, you can't handle my attacks at all. You can't take them. Why is it like this? It's just that your state of mind is still stuck in the atmosphere of fighting and exchanging pointers. You haven't really fought, let alone killed. In a life and death battle with the enemy, will the enemy give you any chance to catch your breath? As long as the difference in strength isn't so absolute, you have the possibility of turning defeat into victory. The only prerequisite is that you have to seize that opportunity. Remember, in a battle of life and death, as long as you aren't too far away from the super level, you still have a chance to counterattack. You must remember my words. Even if there is a storm in front of you, you must find a gap in the storm and counterattack. Because, no matter how dense the rain is, there are still gaps. Counterattack. Zwishaoduo's ears were buzzing. All she could see was Qin Fangyang's dazzling punches and kicks. Her body fell down again and again, falling into the dust and rolling on the ground. The starry sky steps that he thought he had mastered to the point of perfection actually couldn't be executed at all. No matter how she adjusted her body, the moment she took a step, Qin Fangyang only needed to use his feet to kick her, and she would lose her composure and fall on the ground. Although Qin Fangyang's attacks weren't strong, they were really dense. He wouldn't slow down just because Zwishaoduo couldn't block them. His body was like lightning, advancing and retreating like a god. Wherever Zwishaoduo fell, he would appear there like a shadow and continue to punch and kick. Counterattack. You have to get used to counterattacking under such attacks. If you can't get used to it, your cultivation path will be extremely bumpy, and you won't be able to improve anymore. Qin Fangyang's calm voice came one after another, and it was thought-provoking. Zwishaoduo's eyes were bloodshot. Suddenly, a huge foot came toward him. Zwishaoduo let out a hysterical roar and used the star-plucking palm to seal the heavenly gate to meet the attack. At the same time, his feet moved. At the moment when both fists and palms were about to collide, Qin Fangyang slid back strangely like a ghost. With a loud bang, Qin Fangyang's foot missed. His continuous body finally paused for a moment, and Zwishaoduo took advantage of this small gap to roll 40 meters away. This was the first time that Zhuo Xiaoduo successfully avoided Qin Fangyang's attack, and even took the initiative to increase the distance between them. However, before he landed on the ground, he had already adjusted his aura. The moment he landed, his feet landed firmly on the ground, and with a loud bang, he used one hand to support himself, and his body quickly bounced back up. Zhuo Xiaoduo's entire body was once again in a fighting posture. Only his tense muscles relaxed in an instant, and his entire center of gravity was placed on both of his feet. Qin Fangyang's eyes finally flashed with a hint of admiration. This kid's comprehension is really good. I thought I could beat him up continuously for half a month, however. There was no pause at all. Almost at the same time that Zhuo Xiaoduo was in a fighting posture, the stormy attacks came again. However, this time, although Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't immediately counterattack, he was no longer as passive and helpless as before. His pair of eyes were as calm as a deep pool of water, and he parried Qin Fangyang's attacks left and right. The star steps under his feet were unprecedentedly smooth, and it was magnificent. Between his body's twists and turns, there was a sense of transcendence as if he was walking on a starry sky. Bang, 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 banged out the battle between the master and disciple, continued with the sound of collision. Zhuo Xiaoduo, who had finally regained some of his offensive power, became more and more confident as he fought. Suddenly, he let out a long roar, turned his body, and launched the fiercest counterattack. His two fists, with an unstoppable momentum, broke through Qin Fangyang's attacking moves and smashed through a non-existent loophole. Creating a loophole and smashing it in, Qin Fangyang's pupils shrank. This move was really wonderful. Qin Fangyang leaned back, and with only half a step backward, his two fists had already blocked Zhuo Xiaoduo's attacking momentum. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo's smooth attack had already caused him to become excited. To be able to force Qin Fangyang back half a step, at least from Zhuo Xiaoduo's point of view, it was already a great victory. In the next moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo took advantage of the short gap where there was almost no pause to turn around and rush forward again. The star-plucking palm turned into a blurry shadow and attacked with a loud boom. Qin Fangyang's control over his strength was naturally much higher than Zhuo Xiaoduo's. However, he had suppressed his own attacking power to a level that was only slightly higher than Zhuo Xiaoduo's. Now that he was suddenly caught in Zhuo Xiaoduo's frenzied attacks, he couldn't free himself to counterattack and could only passively defend. On the field, Zhuo Xiaoduo was chasing after Qin Fangyang all the way, and actually forced him to retreat 6 meters in one breath. At this moment, Zhuo Xiaoduo's primordial qi was about to run out. He had no choice but to take a moment to recover his qi and attack again. Qin Fangyang took advantage of this moment and quickly pulled apart the distance between them. After this moment, the two of them were entangled again. The battle was even more intense. At this moment, Qin Fangyang's face was filled with gratification. Zhuo Xiaoduo had completely understood the Tao of battle formation. Not bad at all. You must remember. You must be ruthless to your enemy, and you must not hold back. You must eliminate the source of trouble, and you must be as ruthless as you can. If you can kill with one strike, you must never use a second strike. This is the true essence of battle. If you can't kill your enemy with one strike, you must suppress him with violent attacks. As long as you have the upper hand in one strike and find a gap, you must follow up with another strike and turn the upper hand into an advantage and turn it into victory. You must never give your enemy any chance to breathe. If he catches his breath, it may lead to your own death. After a while, Qin Fangyang's move suddenly changed, and he used the momentum of a mountain to forcefully suppress Zhuo Xiaoduo and sent him flying in one move. But this time, the meaning of sending him flying was completely different from before. Previously, he won with his skills, but now he suppressed his opponent with his strength, and it wasn't a crime of battle. Alright, that's all for today. Qin Fangyang clapped his hands in satisfaction and said to Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was already like a dead dog opposite him, "Not bad. Your reaction, courage, and response are all better than I expected. Tomorrow, I won't use a fixed fist technique, but a combination of many fist techniques to fight with you." Not bad. Qin Fangyang laughed and called all the students back to the classroom. The whole field was still silent, and there was no sound for a long time. The scale of the battle between the master and disciple was unprecedented, from the east to the west, from the south to the north, and it affected the whole field, which was thousands of meters wide, without any scruples at all. Almost everyone on the field had seen this fierce battle. Whether it was the students or their teachers, they were all dumbfounded. On the high platform, a bearded teacher and another person looked at each other and said with some suspicion, "What is Qin Fangyang doing? Is he training his successor?" The other person was puzzled and said, "How old is Qin Fangyang? He's not even 130 years old, right? Is there a need to train his successor in such a hurry?" The bearded man curled his lips. "You're talking as if you're older than Qin Fangyang." On the tall building, behind the floor-to-ceiling window, a white-haired old woman in a wheelchair quietly watched everything that happened in the field, and a satisfied smile appeared on her wrinkled face. Her eyes, which were no longer young, were shining with the worship of a young girl. She focused on Qin Fangyang's battle and watched as Qin Fangyang brought the students back and smiled gently with only a few teeth left, but 2 drops of tears fell from her eyes. They rustled as they fell. "Let's go back." "Yes. Teacher Qin is still very handsome. What do you think? Should we give Teacher Qin a lot of recommendation votes?" Chapter 66. Zhou Xiaoduo was carried back by Li Qinglong and Li Chongming as if they were carrying a dead pig. The fight with Qin Fangyang just now had truly made him feel the threat of death. When he recalled the intense frequency of attacks, he still felt like he could suffocate at any time. Too violent. Too violent. Today's fight was almost as intense as the entire morning's fight with Ming Chenyu. After recovering in the classroom for an entire class, he felt as if his broken bones were finally restored to their original state. "School's over." Zhou Xiaoduo groaned happily as if he was about to faint. But when he thought about the even more intense battle that awaited him tomorrow, he could not help but feel dejected. How long would it take for these days of being beaten up to end? "I'll change my name. I won't be called Zhou Xiaoduo anymore. I'll just call myself Zhou Beaten Duo." Zhou Xiaoduo had just walked out of the school gate. 2 big men suddenly appeared in front of him. "You're Zhou Xiaoduo?" Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. "You are?" "Yes, as long as you're Zhou Xiaoduo." The 2 big men's eyes were ferocious. "Come with us." "Who do you think you are? You speak as if you're from the inspection bureau." Zhou Xiaoduo jumped back and tilted his head. "Come with you? Why should I come with you?" He turned his head to look. However, there were already 4 people blocking his way out of the school gate behind him. Obviously, he could not go back to school. Zhou Xiaoduo, who had been beaten up badly in class, became more and more depressed. He really could not understand. Why was he blocked at the gate again? Who were these people? He did not know any of them. During this period of time, I did not offend anyone. Zhou Xiaoduo asked himself. During this period of time, he had been kind to others, united, and friendly. He really did not cause any trouble. As for society, he did not offend anyone in society. "Let's go." The leader stepped forward and reached out to grab Zhou Xiaoduo's collar. This guy was more than 9 meters tall and weighed at least 200 kilograms. He was a typical example of a fat and strong man. His actions and outstretched hands were completely disproportionate to the thin and small Zhou Xiaoduo. How could Zhou Xiaoduo allow the other party to grab him? He quietly took 2 steps back, and the 4 people behind him immediately stepped forward. "Who are you?" Zhou Xiaoduo asked in a deep voice. "You'll have to ask yourself, who have you offended recently? Kid, there are some people you can't." Ouch! The burly man was only halfway through his sentence when he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his crotch. His facial features were all distorted. It was Zhou Xiaoduo who had taken advantage of his distraction and kicked him in the crotch. The greater mastery of the Starry Sky Steps and the perfection of the Dragon Gate kick. Finally, Zhou Xiaoduo found the best way to use it. Kick in the crotch. Boom. The burly man's face was distorted. He covered his crotch with both hands and knelt down. Zhou Xiaoduo did not hesitate and jumped over his head like a whirlwind. However, even though the situation was unexpected, the 2 burly men on both sides reacted quickly. They quickly reached out to grab him, and their momentum was not bad. However, after today's confrontation with Qin Fangyang, Zhou Xiaoduo had a deeper understanding of the use of the star steps. He also had a better understanding of battle formations. As he spun his body, he switched his legs in the air. His body seemed to have teleported, and in an instant, he had already escaped from the encirclement. The few burly men who had fallen behind did not even have time to react. Zhou Xiaoduo had already rushed out of the encirclement and ran away. Mommy. Zhou Xiaoduo cursed endlessly in his heart. Who is this? They think too highly of me. They actually sent 6 martial masters to catch me. How much do they think of me? There is a huge difference in strength between the enemy and me. Survival is the first priority. I'm not the kind of person who will fight to the death even though I know I can't win. That's not bravery, it's stupidity. Based on this understanding, Zhou Xiaoduo's first instinct was to escape. What's wrong with the weak running for their lives when facing someone stronger than them and having a hard time fighting against them? It should be the best choice. It was the greatest victory to be able to escape alive. When the opponent has a lot of people, it's best to put aside the strength of my cultivation and ensure my own safety. Escape is the most important thing. It's not too late to fight when I'm sure I can win. Zhou Xiaoduo was a typical bachelor who did not fight when the odds were against him. With a loud bang, a figure flew out of the car window like lightning from a car not far away. He came face to face with Zhou Xiaoduo, and a series of fist shadows came at him. Where do you think you're going? 3 figures flew out of the other 3 cars at the same time. They stood in a triangle formation far away after the group of burly men and formed the second layer of encirclement. Fuck, I miscalculated. Zhou Xiaoduo miscalculated. The opponents were not just the 6 people he saw at the beginning. There were 10 of them, a total of 10 martial artists. For the current Zhou Xiaoduo, it was a luxurious lineup. Boom, boom dot. Zhou Xiaoduo exchanged 13 punches with the martial artist who came out of the car and landed on the ground. His face was full of caution, but his heart was calm and his confidence increased greatly. If the opponent's strength is on par with the person I'm fighting, then I still have the strength to fight. TSK. I may not lose this battle. I'm a fucking strong person. Zhou Xiaoduo was not at a disadvantage in the round of punches just now. In fact, he had the upper hand and was confident that he could win. The feeling of suppressing others in a head-on battle made Zhou Xiaoduo come to a conclusion instantly. There is a qualitative difference in strength between me and Teacher Qin, so I'm relatively weak. But I'm the strong one against these people. I can defeat them. As soon as this thought arose in his mind, his attitude immediately changed. Fuck. So I can defeat them. Then why should I run? They're just ants. As for the burly man opposite Zhou Xiaoduo, he retreated in shock. Both of his fists were badly mutilated, and his face was twisted in pain. More than half of his finger bones were broken, and even his arm was fractured in several places. The man raised his head and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo in shock. This kid is difficult to deal with. Everyone, be careful. There was no need for him to say anything. Everyone saw this scene with their own eyes. No wonder he could beat up the little boss like that. He's a tough one. A man grinned hideously. He slowly rolled up his sleeves and pulled open his lapel, revealing the tattoo on his body. It was a green dragon bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. The others also rolled up their sleeves and took off their clothes, grinning hideously. In an instant, the green dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, the black tortoise, the godly bull, the silver wolf, and the golden leopard appeared one after another. Basically, all kinds of legendary mythical beasts were present. Let's fight. Why are you taking off your clothes? Are you doing some performance art? Zhou Xiaoduo was seriously puzzled by their actions. Why did they show off their tattoos before fighting? I'm so scared. Kid, you're quite tough. A man twisted his neck and grinned hideously. Which part of me is tough? Zhou Xiaoduo asked curiously. You're not as tough as me. The man was furious. Then are you taking off your clothes to show me where you're tough? Zhou Xiaoduo was curious. You're courting death. With a loud bang, the 4 martial masters attacked at the same time, bare-chested. Zhou Xiaoduo was very calm now. He was not flustered at all. He waited quietly in the same spot. The moment the opponent's fists and kicks were about to hit him, he suddenly moved. He turned his body and left an afterimage on the spot. In fact, his real body had already rushed into the arms of the man behind him. Two fists, like a storm, struck the man's chest like a drum. Crack, 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 a few bones in the man's chest were instantly broken. He screamed in pain, wishing he was dead. The other side had the advantage in numbers, and they were so fierce. Both sides had a clear stance. At this moment, Duo could no longer be bothered to be merciful. It was more important to destroy the other side's strength as soon as possible. His last heavy punch landed on the burly man's nose. In order to prevent the burly man from retaliating, he retreated and kicked him in the crotch. It was the elusive Dragon Gate kick. It was accurate and ruthless. Immediately, another big man's blood-curdling scream shook the heavens and earth. There was another big prawn on the ground. Duo, who quickly withdrew, rolled close to the ground. He took 2 punches and 1 kick on his back, but he had already slipped through the crotch of the man on the left. In the gap, he hit the man's crotch with his golden hook. It was the Dragon Gate kick again. Puff. Ow, ow, ow. The burly man whose crotch he had drilled into also covered his crotch. His face twisted as he slowly squatted down. Duo held onto his head and flew up. His 2 kicks collided with the other 2 martial masters. His body borrowed the force of the recoil to speed up, and at the same time, he clenched his fist and shouted, "Kill, kill, 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 fist." The man on the other side was stunned when he heard this. He hurriedly concentrated and got into a horse stance. He shouted, "Good timing." He fiercely punched Duo's fist. Just as the 2 fists were about to collide, Duo suddenly circled his legs and used the galaxy steps again. He rushed to the ground like a ghost and slid close to the ground. Then, he stretched out his right hand and grabbed fiercely. Star-picking palm of perfection. Spirit monkey picks the stars. Oh, the burly man who wanted to fight head-on let out a scream. His eyes bulged out, and his eyes were filled with disbelief and inconceivable pain. His body fell forward like a wooden stake. His hands unconsciously covered his crotch as he screamed towards the sky. It was a long and melodious scream. Fuck. His scream is so fucking ecstatic. Duo circled around and rolled up from the ground. He stood in a horse stance and said confidently, "Who else?" Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Duo stood tall, handsome, and heroic. He was like a crane in a flock of chickens. He let out a long cry that only a master would have. He stood with his hands behind his back and recited, "The first skill in the martial arts world is to fight 100 retreating enemies alone. Only when I laugh at the ants in the martial arts world can I know that I am at the peak." He actually had the demeanor of a master. Seeking recommendation tickets and tips. Chapter 67. Who else could it be? No one else. The 4 men were rolling on the ground with their hands on their crotches, howling miserably. The other 6 burly men were sweating profusely, and their eyes were filled with astonishment as they looked at their companions on the ground. Then, they looked at Duo, who had the demeanor of an expert, and felt their eyes twitching. What the hell was this? A total of 4 injured men were rolling on the ground with their hands on their crotches. This scene was simply too beautiful. Do you have any other moves other than attacking your crotch? You are a martial master. Don't you have the demeanor of a high-ranking warrior? How can you fight like this? Duo slowly straightened his body with one hand behind his back. He looked like a jade tree facing the wind. He simply had the bearing of a master. Do you still want to fight? Great Masters asked with a faint smile. The 4 men were screaming and rolling on the ground. The other 6 men felt a chill in their crotches at the same time. Fight or not? This was a question. If you don't fight, I'm leaving. Duo snorted. At this moment, a shadow flashed in the sky and disappeared. You can go now, a voice said with a smile. Duo raised his head to look at the source of the sound and saw a person standing at the corner of the courtyard. The man had a striking beard. Who else could it be but Lu Jiansheng? As he spoke, his 3 brothers came out from several other directions and surrounded the 10 burly men. Lu Jianxing smiled amiably. The 10 of you, come with me. Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. You've been following me all this time? Ahem, that's not the point. Lu Jianxing said. The point now is who sent these 10 men. That's the point. Lu Jiansheng and the others were naturally sent by Li Changjiang. Ever since he told Li Changjiang about Zhou Xiaoduo's ability to predict fortune and misfortune, Li Changjiang immediately took it seriously and gave a gag order. It's better to believe it than not. Who doesn't know how important it is to have someone who can predict the outcome of a battle in the future? Don't go out on missions for now. Protect Zhou Xiaoduo from the shadows. Do your best and don't make any mistakes. Let me find a chance to test it out and confirm if Zhou Xiaoduo really has such a mysterious ability. This was Li Changjiang's original words. Especially today, after the incident of Zhou Xiaoduo beating up Class 1 had further spread, Li Changjiang became more and more suspicious. Could it be that this kid noticed something and used such a roundabout method to warn us? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Students, do you want to interrogate them with us? Or, facing Zhou Xiaoduo, Lu Jianxing's beard trembled with laughter, making him look extremely amiable. No need. I have something to do at home today. It's already late. Zhou Xiaoduo was anxious to return home. His father had said that he had to go to his shop early in the afternoon to help unload the goods. As for who was going to deal with him, was it important? I am invincible. Was he afraid that they would deal with him? This is my phone number. Teacher Lu, when you get the results of your interrogation, just give me a call. Zhou Xiaoduo threw down a slip of paper and ran away as fast as he could. This kid is so careless. Lu Jianxing looked at the slip of paper. It was really just a phone number. Careless? Masters must have seen through it and predicted it. Second brother snatched the slip of paper and took out his own phone to type. I have to save Masters' phone number first? That's right. Masters probably already predicted this battle. As for the mastermind behind it, he must have already known. Leaving a phone number is really just a way to contact him. Third brother tilted his head and typed in the phone number. This is Masters' phone number. He gave it to us so easily. This shows that he trusts us. When Lu Jianxing took back the slip of paper and saved the information, he was at the back of the group. He couldn't help but get angry. With a bang, he kicked a big guy in the butt. Why are you standing there like idiots? Hurry up and drag your injured companions away. Misunderstanding. This is really a misunderstanding. One of the big guy's face was distorted. He smiled bitterly and explained, Brother Lu, look at who I am. I'm Little Black Dog. Someone actually knew Lu Jianxing. Misunderstanding your head. Little Black Dog your head. Lu Jianxing slapped the back of his head. Cut the crap and go. Let me tell you, this time, you're in trouble, big trouble. At this time, all the students had already finished school. Only Warrior Class 1 was delayed. And the person who delayed it was Second High's principal, Li Changjiang. When it was almost time for school to end, Li Changjiang came to Class 1's door. Class 1 was blocked at the door again. Teacher Mu. Principal. What's the matter? Mu Yunfeng was surprised by this person's arrival. Yes, there's something. Li Changjiang said seriously. Just now, Director Sun of the Martial Arts Bureau called. He said that he will randomly select 5 students from Class 1 who are ranked lower to go to the Martial Arts Bureau. Mu Yunfeng was puzzled. Then what are we supposed to do? He even pointed out that they are ranked lower. This is a little strange. You're asking me? Who should I ask? Li Changjiang smiled bitterly. Director Sun's secretary just made such a call. There's no beginning or end. I'm still confused. I understand. I'll end the class now and bring the 5 students over. I won't trouble you. I'll bring them over personally. Li Changjiang shook his head helplessly. The secretary said that Director Sun wants to talk to me. It's probably about last place in the last competition. It's not over yet. Sigh. Every time I think of it, I'll be punished. Teacher Mu, can you work harder to improve the students' cultivation and combat experience? They can't be last again in this competition. I don't ask for much, as long as they aren't last. Mu Yunfeng laughed. Okay. I'll try my best. But principal, this is not up to me. Who would really want to be last? Forget it. You go and pick the students. Li Changjiang didn't want to talk anymore. He urged Mu Yunfeng to hurry up. Mu Yunfeng returned to the classroom and picked 5 names. Give me the name list of class 1. Li Changjiang took the name list and left with the 5 students. Mu Yunfeng stood under the shade of a tree at the door. He looked at Li Changjiang's back as he left. His eyes were gloomy. He analyzed Li Changjiang's words word by word in his heart. The more he thought, the more he felt that something was wrong. Director Sun called. Director Sun's secretary called? Then was it Director Sun, or his secretary who called? He wants the 5 students who are ranked lower. What does it mean to be ranked lower? Mu Yunfeng stood there and thought hard. Gu Yuanhang and the others went to apologize. The one who hit them realized his mistake. Gu Yuanhang is ranked higher, but he wants the students who are ranked lower. Hiss. Mu Yunfeng's eyes flashed with extreme shock. The school's commercial car slowly drove out of the school gate. When it got on the main road, it immediately sped up as if there was a ghost chasing after them. Mr. Qin, let's go to the Martial Arts Bureau first. We'll take a detour. Let's put on a show. Understood. The driver was Qin Fengyang. If we go to the Martial Arts Bureau first, it's impossible to turn back. We have to go to Crystal Pass from the other side and pass through the commercial street. If we're not careful, we'll get stuck in traffic. It's very crowded everywhere. Don't worry, safety first. It's okay to be a little slower. Okay. When they returned to Zhuoxiao Duo, this guy was like a wild dog that had let go of its leash. He ran all the way to the commercial street. When he entered the crowded crowd, he slid like a fish, fluttering like a happy butterfly. He flew and flew, until he reached the Astral Soul Stone Shop. Luckily, he wasn't too late. The target was a big car, and it was parked at the entrance. This time, the delivery of the Astral Soul Stone seemed to be a lot more than the last time. A few shop owners were rolling up their sleeves as if they were ready to help. Zhuo Chonglu was also among them. He was chatting with the driver. Don't move, don't move. Zhuo Duo laughed. It's time for me to show my skills. I'll carry all of them. Ha ha ha. Xiao Duo is here. Xiao Duo is really here. The shop owners laughed heartily and were very enthusiastic. Of course, they didn't know Zhuo was nickname. The great nickname of a dog was only used by family members. Zhuo Duo started to move the stones. 1, 2, 3. Lift. This must be at least 5,000 pounds. Zhuo Duo walked in with his head held high and his chest out. He instantly felt a sense of accomplishment. Seeing this scene, they would definitely be shocked. Would their jaws drop, or would their eyes pop out? Either way, they would be very shocked. Zhuo Duo didn't look sideways. Using the most standard steps, he carried the stones in without blushing and panting. He placed the stones in place and then walked out quickly, ready to meet the gazes of the people who were looking up at him. Why isn't anyone surprised? Give me a few more this time. Give me more. Hurry up and finish it. This time, it's at least 7,000 pounds. Wouldn't it scare you all if I moved it in so quickly? This is the strength of a strong person, the strength of a martial master. But why isn't anyone surprised? Zhuo Duo was depressed and puzzled. His intuition was strange. He was throwing flirtatious glances at a blind man and a group of blind men. In the end, he was getting impatient. Hurry up, let's exclaim. Let's be shocked. Don't you have the shock of seeing a god with your eyes wide open? What are you all doing? Give me one. I'm waiting to show off. He wanted to kill them directly, but he suddenly thought that the villains were too stupid. So, please recommend me. Chapter 68. At this time, a fat boss said emotionally, looks like little duo can really cultivate now. AI, this child has finally made it. The others all had a gratified look on their faces as they nodded their heads. Zhuo Duo felt disappointed, but at the same time, he also felt a subtle sense of jealousy. As expected, these simple and honest elders are only worried about my growth. But he also understood that his father had already pretended for him. Come on. The bosses raised their arms and cheered. Come on, Xiao Duo. Zhuo Duo's heart felt warmer and warmer. He only felt that his body was filled with endless strength, moving in, placing, and coming out again. It took a total of 10 minutes to unload a large truck. Although he could move and bear the load, he was still so tired that he stuck his tongue out. Oh yeah. The fat boss snapped his fingers. Ha 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 ha, today was so easy. I didn't even have to lift a finger to finish it. The previous few times had tired my old back out, but today I can finally relax. Yeah, I was really afraid to have to move again. These damn stones are really too heavy. Zhuoxiaoduo's movement of holding a large ladle of water stopped. For a moment, he felt that there was nothing left to live for. It seemed that they weren't happy for him, but were glad that he didn't have to work. Ha ha ha, Xiaoduo is very good. The bosses were just teasing him. Seeing his expression, they were all satisfied and laughed when they achieved their goal. Then, they began to praise him. Hee hee. Xiaoduo scratched his head and couldn't help but ponder in his heart. Were these old guys really praising him? Everyone has worked hard. Come in and have a cup of tea. Zhuochanglu came out to greet them. So, everyone entered the shop to drink tea. Old Zhuo, is Xiaoduo enlightened? Yeah, I think he has a lot of strength. He must be able to cultivate, right? Zhuochanglu smiled faintly and said, I told you guys a few days ago, but you didn't believe me. I don't know why he suddenly became enlightened. I was still puzzled. I didn't pay much attention to it before, haha. He took a sip of tea and continued. After more than a day, he went to the warrior class. I heard that he went from the last place to the 19th place on the same day. Zhuochanglu said reservedly, I thought the 19th place was pretty good. Who knew that the kid told me yesterday that he had already jumped to the first place? It's only been a few days. How did he rush to the first place in his class? This kid is really a worrisome. The bosses opened their mouths and looked at Zhuochanglu. His expression didn't seem like he was showing off. But why did his words sound like he was showing off? Is he showing off to us? Actually, it's not a big deal to be first in the class. Zhuochanglu sighed with melancholy. It's not like he's first in the whole grade. What's so good about it? This kid is so proud of himself. This young man is just asking for a beating. Xiaoduo stood at the side and said cutely, Dad, I defeated the original first place in the grade today. I'm now the first in the whole grade. All the students in the warrior class lost to me. Now, I'm the first in the warrior class. Really? Zhuochanglu's eyes lit up, but then his face darkened. Don't show off. What's there to show off with such a small achievement? Be a little more humble. Yes, I'm not showing off. I'm just being humble. First in the class. First in the whole grade. He actually wanted to be humble. Ha ha ha. You're showing off your son to the heavens. The bosses were all jealous. Ahem. I still have something to do in the shop. Me too. I still have to go back and settle accounts. I'm leaving now. They all laughed dryly and got up to leave. As soon as they stepped out of the shop, they rolled their eyes. Don't show off? Be humble? What the fuck do you two want to show off? What kind of humility are you talking about? I knew that there must be something fishy about not being allowed to unload the car since it's been here for a while. It turns out that you're waiting here, showing off your son. Zhuochanglu, this son of a bitch. In the past, they also hoped that this kid would be successful. Everyone even helped him think of a way. But when he really became successful, why did they feel so jealous looking at the crowd leaving? Zhuochanglu's eyes were deep and serene. These uncles, they're all pretty good. Xiaoduo said. Zhuochanglu said slowly, people, as long as they're human, have two or more sides. You must remember this. When you're happy, you'll often have other feelings. So, in many cases, although we instinctively don't want to overestimate the evil of human nature, we should never overestimate the good of human nature. Because the evil side will ferment, but the good side will most likely not. Xiaoduo was stunned. Zhuochanglu had rarely spoken to him in such a heavy and extreme manner. I thought that Dad called me over just to show off his son. Is that not the case? But today's dad, the dad just now, is a little handsome. In the shop, the truck driver who had been silent all this time laughed. He felt a little embarrassed to show off in front of his son. Forced education? But this time, why did he call me over from hundreds of thousands of miles away? His heart was beating like a drum. The sky is 3 feet high on the left, and the stars are 10,000 miles deep on the right. This wasn't a joke at all. He curled his lips and said, Brother, Zwa, your words are too dark and too profound. I guess the kid is confused. Well, this is your son? Zwa looked at the driver. This person's appearance, if in ancient novels, could be described as handsome. Well, to explain, the ancients usually didn't directly say that the person was ugly, but used other adjectives. For example, this person's appearance was very handsome. His face was rough, and he was more than 2 meters tall. His arms and legs were long, and his shoulders were wide. His hair was messy, but it was black and shiny. At this moment, when he grinned, 2 rows of big white teeth were exposed. Zwa measured in his heart. His teeth alone were estimated to be more than twice the size of an ordinary person's. They were like door planks. After thinking about it, he estimated that he might not be able to break this tooth with one punch. Although he was tall, he didn't give people the impression of a tiger's back and a bear's waist. His whole body was well proportioned from head to toe. His eyes were exceptionally bright, and at this moment, he was looking at Zwa from head to toe. Well, this is my son. Zwa Changlu introduced casually. Xiaoduo, this is your Uncle Nan. Hello, Uncle Nan. Zwa obediently bowed, saluted, and greeted him. He's actually Dad's friend? Damn, Dad actually has a friend. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart. According to common sense, shouldn't there be a greeting gift at this moment? Ha ha, this is the accident you were talking about. The burly man laughed and patted Zwa's shoulder. Not bad, not bad. This accident is still acceptable. It's unexpected, but reasonable, huh? After saying a few words, he suddenly realized that he had misspoken. He hurriedly covered his mouth and laughed dryly. Well, he only laughed twice and didn't say anything else? Zwa blinked and expressed a little confusion. Dad had always rarely introduced him to business partners or friends. This Uncle Nan in front of him was the first time he introduced him to someone so formally, but he didn't give him a greeting gift? This was very wrong. Dad, your friend doesn't know etiquette. Where's the greeting gift? Zwa was also a little embarrassed. Well, he wasn't embarrassed because his friend didn't give him a greeting gift. Instead, he was embarrassed because this guy had used the word unexpected to describe the situation. What was unexpected? What was reasonable? This guy surnamed Nan was really asking for a beating. If this was heard by this guy surnamed Nan's family could probably hold a funeral. He hurriedly changed the topic. Your Uncle Nan has been traveling around for many years, so he's really experienced and knowledgeable. Later, invite Uncle Nan to our house for a meal, and let him tell you about the outside world. Okay. Zwa obediently agreed. He obediently picked up the teapot and poured tea. His movements were meticulous and meticulous. He always had a sweet smile on his face and said, Uncle Nan, you've had a long journey. Please have some tea. At first glance, I know Uncle Nan is a big shot. I've never seen you before. Uncle Nan, why are you hanging a pouch on your waist? What's that? Should I say it or not? This pouch really doesn't match the dignified Uncle Nan. Uncle Nan smiled bitterly. Oh, it's just a small cloth pouch. Oh, a small cloth pouch. A small cloth pouch is good. In the future, I'll definitely visit Uncle Nan's house when I have the chance. Uncle Nan, do you have brothers and sisters? I have a lot of small gifts to send to them. Why don't you leave your address, and I'll send them directly by express delivery. Zwa mouth twitched. Uncle Nan was dumbfounded. Could your hint be any more obvious? Finally, he opened his pocket, rummaged inside, and laughed dryly. Xiaoduo, I came here in a hurry this time, so I didn't prepare anything. Well, this little thing, you can keep it for fun. It was a small blood-red flying knife. This small flying knife was about the size of a middle finger. It was as thin as a cicada's wing and as light as a feather, as if it could be blown away by the wind. Only the strange red light it emitted showed that it was different. In particular, there seemed to be a thin red line in the red light. Even if he held the knife and didn't move it, the red line seemed to be constantly hovering and swimming freely inside. Thank you for your gift, Uncle Nan. Zwa held it in his hand and played with it fondly. It's a good thing. It's so exquisite. It's so beautiful. Hey, Uncle Nan, You don't know that I have a sister. I'm so scared. What if she steals from me? She always steals from me. Hey, the recommendation ticket is a good thing. It's exquisite and beautiful. Brothers, you don't know that I have many peers, right? I'm so scared. They always like to steal the recommendation ticket from me. So, hey, you know. Chapter 69. This time, the muscles on Uncle Nan's face really twitched. One was not enough? Was he going to ask for a gift for his sister? Go away. Zhou Changlu shouted angrily. Why are you so insensible? Your Uncle Nan is such a stingy person. It's already rare for him to give you a small knife. What else do you want? Hurry up and sit down obediently. How could he say that? Uncle Nan's face was distorted. He turned his head and said gloomily, Brother Zhua, I even gave away the knife. How can I be stingy? When we go home for dinner tonight, your sister will naturally see your Uncle Nan. What can't she say? Even if your Uncle Nan sees your sister as a real elder, how can he not express his gratitude? It will only be better than your broken knife. Zhou Changlu was angry and scolded his son fiercely. Do you think you're the only one who cares about your sister? Broken knife? Better? Uncle Nan stood up restlessly and murmured, I'd better go back tonight. If he didn't go back, he really suspected that his underwear would be left behind. Didn't he hear that his dragon blood-flying knife had become a broken knife? Go back? Go back? You came all the way here. How can I not give you a meal? Zhou Changlu glared and said, Are you looking down on me, Zhou Changlu? Or do you think that I treat you to plain tea and food that is hard to swallow? Uncle Nan sat down embarrassedly, wiped his sweat and murmured, I really don't look down on you. It's just that I think too highly of you. Zhou Xiaoduo was even more certain in his heart. This Uncle Nan definitely had a close relationship with his family. For so many years, ever since Zhou Xiaoduo could remember, he had never seen a guest in his house. But this Uncle Nan was invited home for dinner by his father. It was obvious that their relationship was not ordinary. When he looked at Uncle Nan again, Zhou Xiaoduo couldn't help but have other questions in his heart. It was a question that he had asked Zhou Changlu and Wu Yuding many times. I have a father and a mother. But what about my grandparents? Where are my grandparents? Could it be that my parents popped out of a rock? How come I've never heard of or seen anyone from the older generation? The door curtain was lifted and a walking stick reached in. It knocked on the ground twice, and then a blind man, who looked to be at least 70 or 80 years old, with a head full of white hair, groped his way in. Is Boss Zhua here? A trembling voice sounded faintly. Yes, yes. When Zhou Changlu saw the client, he went forward to greet him. Oh, Old Hong, your eyes are not good. Why didn't you call me in advance? I could have gone over to welcome you. Taking this opportunity, Zhou Xiaoduo peeked at Uncle Nan's face. Well, since we are so close, I have to take a look. After taking a look, Zhou Xiaoduo was even more surprised. Uncle Nan's physiognomy was actually the standard physiognomy of a wealthy and idle person. This kind of physiognomy would lead a peaceful and worry-free life, with plenty of children and grandchildren. Everything would go smoothly for him, and he would have no worries at all. It was rare that such a fierce person could have such a good face. Birds of a feather flock together, isn't it? My parents and husband both have this kind of face, which is already strange. I didn't expect Uncle Nan to have this kind of face. Zhou Xiaoduo couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Life was unpredictable. Even if you were a powerful person or a master who had reached the peak of martial arts, it was inevitable that you would have some kind of trouble. People like his parents and Uncle Nan were the rarest and rarest. They were even rarer than those who had the fate of an emperor or the fortune of an emperor. While he was sighing, Uncle Nan had already turned his face and was a little curious. Little accident. Why are you looking at my face? Do you like me very much? Uncle Nan, please call me Xiaoduo, Zhou Xiaoduo said solemnly. Okay, Xiaoduo you. Why are you looking at my face? Do you like me? Da. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes. Uncle Nan, I've been staring at you because I know how to read your face. When I saw your face just now, I was really shocked. You're just like my parents. You're a lucky person, Zhou Xiaoduo said. As soon as this sentence came out, Uncle Nan was stunned. Uncle Nan was stunned for a moment. On the other side, the old blind man who was talking to Zhuanglu also turned his head and rolled his eyes to look at them. Uncle Nan was a little curious. Do you really know how to read faces? Or are you just bragging about your parents? I'm not bragging. Your face and that of my parents are very rare. It's better than the fortune of an emperor or the fate of an emperor. Is that so? Then hurry up and read it for me. I'm so lucky. When will I become rich? I'm really short on money recently. I can't even afford to give you a gift. Uncle Nan was obviously less and less convinced of Zhuanglu's nonsense. Zhuanglu smiled bitterly. Uncle Nan, you're making things difficult for me. You're already a winner in life, a guest at the peak. If you still don't have enough money, then no one else can live. Uncle Nan laughed. While they were joking, Zhuanglu was talking to the old blind man. Old Hong, give me a call in the future. I'll send someone to deliver it to you. It's been so long, but I still don't know where you live. No need, no need. The old blind man coughed and said, recently, Phoenix City hasn't been very peaceful. It's better not to wander around. Anyway, your shop is here. It won't run away. Yeah, it's getting more and more chaotic recently. Zhuanglu sighed. Well, Boss Zhua, speaking of which, there's something I need to trouble you with, Blind Hong said. Just say it. In a few days, my rent is up and I have no place to stay. How about I stay at your place for a few days? Blind Hong requested. My place? My shop? Yes, yes. Why is it here? Zhuanglu was dumbfounded. It's safe here. Blind Hong rolled his eyes. That's fine. Zhuanglu was quite straightforward. When will you move here? In less than 2 months. Or 2 months. I'll just stay here for 7 to 8 days. Blind Hong trembled. Sigh, I'm getting old and have no children to take care of me. It's so hard. Ha ha ha, if you're free, you can come over and chat with me. Zhuanglu laughed. Then it's settled? Okay, it's settled. After dealing with Blind Hong carried a bag of jade of astral souls and staggered away. Zhuanglu looked at Blind Hong's back and felt a little uncomfortable. He muttered, he's so old that he can't even walk. He's also blind. How dare he carry so many jade of astral souls on the road? Isn't he afraid of being robbed? Zhuanglu smiled and did not say anything. Uncle Nan, on the other hand, said, everyone has their own way of living and their own path. Maybe he has bodyguards waiting outside the door? At this moment, Zhuanglu's phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Lu Jiansheng. Zhuanglu took out his phone and was about to look at it when suddenly boom. Outside, in the distance, there was a violent explosion. The explosion came out of nowhere and the volume was even louder. It was deafening and the ground was unstable. Zhuanglu only felt a buzzing sound in his ears. He threw his phone aside and rushed to the door. Uncle Nan and Zhuanglu looked at each other and followed him to the door. Then, from the direction of the explosion, a long roar broke through the air. Who are you? Thief? Come out and fight. Zhuanglu's face was even more shocked. That's Teacher Qin's voice. Then, he turned around and said, Dad, you and Uncle Nan stay in the shop. Don't move. Before his voice died away, he had already rushed out of the shop. He closed the door and locked it, directly locking Zhuanglu and Uncle Nan in the shop. It's better to hide in the reception room at the back. After shouting again, Zhuanglu rushed into the distance. In the shop, the lights suddenly dimmed. Uncle Nan looked at the door in a daze and said faintly, Brother Zhua, your son is really good. I'm finally envious of him. Zhuanglu smiled bitterly. He looks good now. If he's naughty, I want to beat him 8 times a day. He's a little slippery, but this filial piety is the rarest. Uncle Nan said in a daze, he can't bear to use your strength as a father. Such a son is really enviable. When the explosion happened, he reacted immediately and rushed to the door. Isn't it because he's afraid that some debris will leak in? That's good, that's good. Uncle Nan sighed and said, if I can have such a child by accident, I also want to have an accident. Zhuanglu smiled faintly. You don't know how much effort it takes to raise such a little thing. It's like I owed him in my previous life. Uncle Nan squinted. You don't sound like you're complaining. You sound like you're showing off. Uncle Nan bent down and picked up Xiaoduo's phone from the ground. He had just sent a message. The screen was still lit up. It was very conspicuous. The people who blocked the road and wanted to kidnap you are a few people from the local Azure Dragon Gang. The reason is that you beat up Zheng Dei from Class 1. Zheng Dei is the son of the Azure Dragon Gang's boss, Zheng Deiqian. According to Zheng Dei's arrangement, they plan to break your legs. It was the message from the bearded Lu Jiansheng. Uncle Nan was thoughtful. Azure Dragon Gang? Zheng Deiqian? 2 legs? TSK. Damn it. This name is good. I'm too embarrassed to give him such a good name. Now that I see this name, I feel like I'm going against it. Why is it so badass to want to break people's legs so easily? Uncle Nan glanced at Zhuo Changlu, turned off the screen of the phone quietly, and handed it to Zhuo Changlu. Your Xiao Duo's phone. Boom, looking for recommendation votes. Chapter 70. On the other side, 2 minutes before the explosion took place, Qin Fangyang drove the car slowly into the business district. Here, the density of people was extremely high. They were almost shoulder to shoulder. A car converging in the sea of people was more like a drop of water melting into the river. It was not eye-catching at all. Only now did Li Changjiang feel relieved. He stretched his arms and legs on the front passenger seat and said, "How much longer?" Qin Fangyang was about to speak when he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He shouted, "Attack!" He crossed his palms and 3 balls of green light quickly formed. One of them broke the front window and flew out, while the other 2 pierced through the windows on both sides. At this time, the 3 incoming bombs had already reached the left side of the car. They collided with Qin Fangyang's spiritual energy from 3 directions, and the 3 directions exploded almost at the same time. Li Changjiang also reacted quickly. In an instant, he activated all his cultivation and turned it into a green light shield, protecting himself and the 5 students in the back seat. However, the whole car was overturned by the impact of the explosion and flipped a few times in the air. Li Changjiang had to protect the students, so he naturally could not leave the car. He could only passively roll with the car in the air. Qin Fangyang, who rushed out of the car first, turned into a sword light and shot out quickly with his sword. The sword that Gu Yuanhang gave him just happened to come in handy at this time. It was only a momentary explosion, but it had already caused a mess around. At least 40 to 50 innocent passers-by were injured. The scene was too horrible to look at. Seeing this scene, Qin Fangyang shouted, "Everyone, don't panic, don't panic. Help move the injured and quickly contact the hospital. The criminal who caused the explosion just now has not left yet. Everyone, hide as much as possible and don't come out." This shout was not a big deal, but the street became even more chaotic. People were crying and shouting in a mess. But although it was chaotic, the people evacuated quite quickly. After all, in the world of martial arts, even if this kind of situation was not common, there was still a way to deal with it. Qin Fangyang stood with his sword in hand. His eyes were on the 6 directions, and his ears were on the alert in all directions. He was on guard against a follow-up attack. On the other side of the SUV, Li Changjiang dragged the 5 students out of the car. The 5 students who were under special protection were unscathed, but Li Changjiang himself had a bloody wound on his back. Just now, he had turned around to face the back, placing most of his strength on the back seat to protect the students. Naturally, it was difficult for his back to be fully protected. At this moment, he was circulating his internal energy to recover. As for the MPV, it was completely scrapped. The clamor around them slowly faded away. The commoners of this era had more or less experienced similar incidents. Naturally, they knew that it was best to run as far away as possible. Some of the shop owners didn't even care about their shops anymore and just left. A burst of sinister laughter rang out. "Headmaster Li, why are you leaving in such a hurry? You didn't even enter the Martial Arts Bureau's gate. What are you trying to do?" A voice that made one's teeth ache said slowly. His voice drifted from left to right, erratic. Qin Fangyang and Li Changjiang stood with their backs facing each other. Between the 2 of them were the 5 students. The 2 of them didn't move, nor did they speak. Since the enemy had chosen to take action and provoke them after the bombs exploded, it wouldn't be as simple as the 3 bombs just now. Bombs could only be used against ordinary people. To experts like the two of them, they were almost useless. The enemy's target was most likely the 5 students. It was also possible that they were coming for the 2 of them. The next moment, 4 figures quietly appeared in the air as if they were illusions. The moment the 4 of them appeared, they shuttled back and forth, changing their positions. Then, they stood up and launched their attacks. A sword, a saber, a spear, and 2 sledgehammers, each with a violent sound of breaking the air, attacked Qin Fangyang and Li Changjiang. 1 nascent soul, 3 elixir core. Let me. Qin Fangyang shouted. Don't move. Protect the students. Qin Fangyang brandished his long sword and 4 Qin Fangyangs appeared on the spot. 1 on each side, they faced the 4 attackers. As the 4 Qin Fangyangs brandished their long swords, dazzling sword light blossomed. Their sword moves were all different, but they were all real and not fake. Qin Fangyang, the legendary 5-direction sword, is indeed extraordinary. On the opposite side, a sinister voice sounded. Qin Fangyang was fighting 1 against 4, but he wasn't at a disadvantage. The 4 figures were all in a solid state and were not inferior to the 4 perfected beings. Whooshed, another gray figure appeared silently from the side. Qin Fangyang's sword light suddenly expanded. From the vast sword light, another Qin Fangyang walked out and faced the enemy. Now, the 5-direction doppelgangers have appeared. Qin Fangyang, what else do you have? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After the first few waves of enemies, another 6 people in gray robes appeared. Each of them held a weapon and rushed over while shouting. Another nascent soul is leading the team. Qin Fangyang's heart was filled with rage. After a long roar, his long sword flipped and the sword light exploded. The 5-direction doppelgangers that were originally fighting on their own suddenly converged and then brandished in 5 directions. At the same time, Li Changjiang, who was behind Qin Fangyang, pulled out 2 swords from his waist and held them in his hands, shining with cold light. You guys are probably too ignorant and inexperienced. In a school, the principal is the strongest existence. The 2 swords shone with cold light and intercepted the 6 enemies that had just appeared. Under the flickering sword light, the 6 people were forced to the same direction. Only then did they feel at ease and started to fight. Zhuo Duo had already arrived at the left side. However, after taking a closer look at the situation, he tiptoed to the side. The battle in front of him was a battle between experts. If he went up now, he would only cause trouble and distract Qin Fangyang and Li Changjiang. He wouldn't be of any help at all. It was better to hide first and see if he could do something later. Li Changjiang and Qin Fangyang each occupied one side and joined forces to deal with the 11 people in gray. Although they were outnumbered, they still didn't fall into a disadvantageous position. This was especially so for Qin Fangyang's side. The 5 silhouettes formed from the 5 elements sword technique moved around like they were weaving through flowers and trees. Each sword was like a firework during a festival, constantly releasing and spreading out, pressuring the 5 enemies to the point that they were almost unable to catch their breath. Teacher Qin is so strong. Zhuo Duo didn't dare to take a breath. Alas, I thought I was already a strong person after breaking through the martial master level. Now it seems that I'm still a little. The 5 students were protected in the middle by Qin Fangyang and Li Changjiang. They stood back to back in a circle. Although there was fear on their faces, they all took out their weapons and were vigilant, ready to fight at any time. Teacher Qin, hurry up and get rid of this group of people. They must have an ambush. We have to guard against their sneak attack. Li Changjiang shouted. All right. Qin Fangyang let out a long whistle. The sword light of his long sword blazed again, and its power increased. The 5 people opposite him felt the pressure multiplying and were increasingly unable to withstand it. Li Changjiang took advantage of the situation and moved. His attacks were also explosive, forcing the 6 people opposite him to take a few steps back. Then, he took 2 steps back and whispered to the 5 students behind him, when Teacher Qin shows his power and opens up an opening, don't act rashly. Just stay together. When that happens, I will sweep you all up and rush out together. The 5 students nodded nervously. On the other side, Qin Fangyang let out a short shout, and the enormous sword light appeared again with an irresistible momentum. The gray-robed man opposite him was immediately pierced through the chest by his sword, and blood spurted out as Qin Fangyang kicked him flying. After killing the enemy with one sword, the 5 figures that Qin Fangyang had split into were even more ferocious. They were like 5 huge mountains, firmly suppressing the remaining 4 people. The 4 people were barely able to hold on. Qin Fangyang suddenly withdrew his strength and withdrew. The sword rain that was like a tidal wave changed direction and blasted towards the 6 people that Li Changjiang was facing. Then, he turned around and the sword light rose again, fiercely attacking the 4 people. Li Changjiang's 6 people were suddenly attacked. Their formation was immediately messed up. They were afraid that Li Changjiang would take advantage of this opportunity and could only retreat. Li Changjiang took advantage of this gap and immediately escaped. With a long whistle, the sword light spread out like a cattail leaf fan and swept up the 5 students. At the same time, Qin Fangyang had completely suppressed the 4 people that he was facing. The enemies were completely unable to do anything to Li Changjiang. They saw Li Changjiang sweep up the 5 students and rush out of the opening. "Go!" Qin Fangyang shouted. Qin Fangyang's sword light flashed continuously, and the 4 doppelgangers rushed out together with Li Changjiang. However, he still left behind one doppelganger to hold the long sword and block the 10 people from the other side. Puff, puff. Even though the doppelganger was hit repeatedly, it still did not retreat half a step. Seeing that it could not stop them, the doppelganger actually self-detonated along with the sword light, using the most extreme method to stop the other party from chasing after them. After a loud bang, the 10 people on the other side all turned pale. Obviously, they were seriously injured by the self-detonation of Qin Fangyang's doppelganger. At this time, Qin Fangyang's other doppelgangers that were following behind Li Changjiang had all been retracted. However, a trace of red flashed across his face, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Obviously, the self-detonation of the doppelganger just now also caused Qin Fangyang to be seriously injured. However, everyone had rushed out after all. However, at this moment, there was another explosion in a shop next to them. Then, countless dense flying needles as thin as cow's hair suddenly covered the sky above the place where Qin Fangyang and Li Changjiang were standing. The way forward was immediately cut off, and at the same time as the rainstorm of needles came, a strange sound was also heard. It was accompanied by a strange melody. It was accompanied by an inexplicable power. Fight, fight, fight. One spear and one sword, break through the mountain pass, sprinkle my hot blood, advance courageously. The eyes of the 5 students behind Li Changjiang suddenly turned red. The combat power that appeared here was a little high, nascent soul and elixir essence. However, if the number of people who appeared was too low, Qin Fangyang and Li Changjiang would not be able to write. I can only think of a way to increase the number of people who appeared. I have put in so much effort, so please recommend me. Chapter 71. They are from the Army Destroyer. Qin Fangyang shouted. How dare they sneak into the astral souls? Are they not afraid of death? Li Changjiang brandished the 2 swords in his hands again and again. His movements were airtight, protecting the students behind him. Headmaster Li was confident that even if the number of needles was twice as dense, they would not be able to break through his defense. The students would be safe. However, at this moment, something unexpected happened. Zhuo Duo, who was less than 10 meters away, widened his eyes. As far as the eye could see, the 5 students behind Li Changjiang all pulled out their weapons and fiercely stabbed at Li Changjiang's back. With a soft puff, the sword closest to Li Changjiang fiercely pierced into his back. However, Li Changjiang's cultivation level was still high. The moment the tip of the sword entered his body, he reacted immediately. His spiritual energy flowed back and sealed the injured part of his muscles. That student's strength was far inferior to Li Changjiang's. Even though he had caught Li Changjiang off guard and managed to land a hit, he was unable to further increase the outcome of the battle. At most, it could only be considered as a flesh wound that was neither light nor heavy. As for the other 4 weapons, as he turned and dodged, they brushed past his back, leaving 4 deep bloody marks on his back. Although the injury was not serious, Li Changjiang looked at his students in disbelief. However, he immediately understood. The students did not betray him. Their minds were controlled. It is indeed the army destroyer's bewitchment. When he turned around, the tight defense of the two swords disappeared. However, the needles in the air were still coming at him rapidly. Qin Fangyang saw this scene and waved his sword with all his might. He shouted, "Headmaster!" Teacher Qin naturally wanted to turn around and rush over to help Li Changjiang, but the 10 people had turned around and entangled him. The explosion of the doppelganger just now had also greatly damaged his vitality. For a moment, he could not even move half a step. Puff, puff, puffed, as countless needles stabbed into Li Changjiang's body. Li Changjiang let out a long scream. He waved his hands, but still managed to block all the needles that were shot at the students. "I'm the head of a school. In front of me, no one can hurt my students." This was Second High's tradition. As long as the teacher was still alive, the students would be safe. Fight! A devilish figure suddenly appeared in the shop. His body was shrouded in black fog. His figure flashed rapidly as if he had appeared out of thin air. In just one step, he was already behind Li Changjiang. The long saber in his hand slashed down mercilessly. That was a strike that would kill with a single strike, aiming to cut off his head and end his life. This person's cultivation was obviously much stronger than the previous 11 people. His movement technique was much faster, and his attacks were swift and fierce, filled with the intent to kill. Li Changjiang was protecting the students, and the door behind him was wide open. Qin Fangyang's heart was burning with anxiety, but he couldn't rush over. He was firmly entangled by those 10 people. A one-hit kill. Zhou Xiaoduo saw such a shocking turn of events. He was so anxious that smoke came out of his head. He couldn't care about anything else. He casually took out the thing in his hand and threw it out with all his strength. "I must bring some hidden weapons with me in the future, just in case." Zhou Xiaoduo's heart was filled with indescribable regret. At the critical moment, he realized that not only did he not bring any hidden weapons, he didn't even have a weapon. From head to toe, he only had the small blood-red flying dagger that Uncle Nan had just given him. However, in this dangerous situation, he couldn't give up on any help, any hope. Even if it was a straw, he had to grab it. What if he succeeded in saving his life? As soon as the flying dagger was thrown out, the originally hidden blood-red color flashed with a mysterious blood-red light. It actually made a woo sound. It suddenly rushed out and disappeared in a flash. The speed of its movement was far beyond Zhou Xiaoduo's imagination. That person's killing intent was already formed. When he was about to swing his dagger to kill Li Changjiang, he suddenly saw a red light coming rapidly from the corner of his eye. However, the red light was just a flash, and its momentum was even weaker. It was just like an ordinary martial artist's attack. With this person's cultivation, he didn't care about such a small thing. He casually grabbed it with his left hand, and the killing intent of the dagger in his right hand didn't change. At this moment, the most important thing was to kill Li Changjiang. Everything else was secondary. Their target was never the students, but Li Changjiang and Qin Fangyang. As long as the two of them died, this hidden danger would come to an end. The rest of them would be mediocre. What else could they do? However, the left hand that was blocking the red light suddenly felt a sharp pain. His palm was penetrated in an instant. The moment a sharp pain came, the smooth star power around his body was suddenly cut off, and a part of it was lost. The killing move that was originally at the peak, and even his right hand, were all stagnant. In a battle between experts, the difference of a hair's breadth could lead to a difference of 1,000 miles. Just this momentary difference was already the difference between life and death. Li Changjiang struggled to hold on. His dagger swiftly swept back, and with a block and a horizontal block, he narrowly blocked the life-threatening long saber. With a loud bang, Li Changjiang's entire body was pressed to the ground. However, if it wasn't for that sudden accident, Li Changjiang would never be able to block this fatal dagger in his current state of serious injury. That person turned his head to look at his left hand in surprise. He saw a small and exquisite blood-red flying dagger. After piercing his left hand, its momentum was slightly weakened. It was still flying gracefully and was about to pass in front of his eyes. That person saw very clearly that it was this small flying dagger that had pierced his palm. However, its momentum had been exhausted, and it didn't have any more lethality. This time, he really only needed to casually grab it, and he could catch it. Looking at it from such a close distance, the flying dagger was exquisite, delicate, and exquisite. The flying dagger itself was not only as thin as a cicada's wing, but it was also almost transparent. The most dazzling thing was that the flying dagger seemed to be wrapped in a layer of blood-red smoke. Such a wonderful thing. It was obviously a good thing, not to mention that it was extremely sharp. It could be called a divine weapon that could cut through iron like mud. Such a treasure was close at hand and could be easily obtained. However, the moment this person saw this small flying dagger at such a close distance, the look in his eyes suddenly changed into a state of shock that was close to madness. He shouted, "No, no, no, no." Then, he completely lost his composure. He sat down on the ground, and with his 2 legs, he stepped back more than 10 meters. His eyes were full of horror. The flying dagger was light and gentle. It flew and flew in the air, and finally, its strength was exhausted. It fell from the air and gently inserted into the ground. Only the tip of the dagger was inserted into the road. The thin body of the dagger swayed weakly in the air. At this moment, everyone's movements stopped. Li Changjiang took the opportunity to support his heavily injured body and knocked the 5 students unconscious. He joined forces with Qin Fangyang. At this moment, he was also shocked and confused. What the hell is going on? Everyone was waiting for this mysterious expert to appear. Who threw the flying dagger? After a while, there was no abnormality. No one appeared. The last person to appear in gray slowly stood up. Looking around, his legs were still trembling. He lowered his head to look at his left hand. It had only been pierced by the flying dagger, and it was completely dried up. He stood there trembling, as if he was waiting for something. After a long time, there was no movement. He suddenly felt as if he had been pardoned. Then, with a pale face, he shouted in a low voice, "Go! Go quickly!" The other party kept the corpse of the person killed by Qin Fangyang and hurriedly left. In just a moment, they disappeared into the distance. The way they escaped was extremely embarrassing. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were rolling and crawling. It was as if there was an evil spirit chasing after them. Li Changjiang's heart was filled with bewilderment. Other than the feeling of escaping from death, there was also an inexplicable confusion. The last expert to appear just now had a higher cultivation level than the 2 of them. He also had the advantage of a sneak attack. Li Changjiang, who bore the brunt of the attack, was seriously injured. There was no way he could escape. There was also Qin Fangyang, who was tightly entangled by the 10 opponents. If they had waited for that expert to kill Li Changjiang and then come to encircle and annihilate them, they would have died without a doubt. The moment that expert made his move, the 2 of them already knew that death was imminent and that there was no chance of survival. However, the tables had turned in an instant, and they had actually escaped just like that. The 2 of them gasped for breath. It was not just the feeling of escaping from death. It was really complicated and indescribable. And the biggest doubt was, whose flying dagger was it? Qin Fangyang looked at the flying dagger on the ground. His eyes were filled with inexplicable shock and respect. But when he saw that no one appeared, he immediately put away his emotions. The shrill siren sounded. The inspection had finally arrived. Zhou Xiaoduo ran over, panting. "Teacher Qin, principal, are you okay?" He bent down to pick up the flying dagger, put it into a small leather sheath, and put it in his pocket. Li Changjiang and Qin Fangyang's 4 eyeballs popped out at the same time. "Your flying dagger? Was it you who threw the dagger just now?" "Who else could it be?" Zhou Xiaoduo did not realize the key point at this moment, so he answered casually. He was also at the last moment. He really did not think about anything and subconsciously threw the flying dagger. After throwing it out, he realized that with his strength, it seemed that he could not help at all. This action would only expose himself. Therefore, after he threw the flying dagger, he immediately shrank back and squeezed into the roadside garbage dump. He only popped his head out to check the situation when he heard no sound. He did not know what happened next. It's great that you are okay. Principal, your injury is quite serious. It is more important to treat it first. Li Changjiang looked at Zhou Xiaoduo with an extremely complicated expression. He was speechless for a long time. Qin Fangyang's expression was also extremely complicated. Li Changjiang did not know that flying dagger, but he knew that it was only that flying dagger that made such a powerful enemy retreat. There must be another reason behind it. If it was not for the origin of this flying dagger, how could that master lose his composure like that? And Qin Fangyang obviously knew. But because he knew, he was even more shocked. This flying dagger. Hiss. Why was it in Zhou Xiaoduo's hands? A small flying dagger. Fly, fly. Countless recommendation votes. Come, come. Chapter 72. My injuries are still okay. Li Changjiang resisted the pain with great difficulty. Qin Fangyang had already begun to quickly deal with the needles on his body. In that instant just now, there were no less than 40 to 50 oxhair needles that fell on Li Changjiang's body. Fortunately, the instant Li Changjiang was hit by the needles, he forcefully circulated his vital qi to resist. In the end, the needles didn't drill into his body. Otherwise, it would have been troublesome. But even so, his injuries were already not light. Qin Fangyang picked out the needles in one breath, confirming over and over again that there were no omissions. These students, they didn't mean it. They should have been bewitched by some strange technique. Li Changjiang sighed and looked at Qin Fangyang. Teacher Qin, it's confirmed now without a doubt. Li Changjiang's expression was simply heavy to the extreme. Yes. Qin Fangyang nodded. Li Changjiang sighed deeply, his expression even more ashen. In all fairness, the heavy injuries on his body right now weren't as big of a blow to him as this matter itself. He knew better than anyone how big of a storm this matter would cause and how many people it would implicate. This was hard to imagine. The sound of rushing air echoed. The city guards had actually arrived before the inspectors. After all, the inspectors had no use in this kind of cultivator matter. Then, more than a dozen media companies' vehicles drove over. A few reporters rushed over with microphones in their hands. You guys leave first. Just go to the city guard office and report after you're done. The city guard officer had a headache. We'll deal with the reporters. Borrowing the city guard's car, Li Changjiang and Qin Fangyang took the 5 students and hurriedly left. Zhou Xiaoduo, quickly go home. Thanks a lot for today. The Crystal Pass? Yes. Although it's already confirmed, we still need evidence to speak to the higher-ups. Your injuries? No matter. Let's deal with this matter first. You don't need to accompany me to the Crystal Pass. Go back right now and control Mu Yunfeng. I'll go to the Crystal Pass myself. Okay, but there's a big chance that it's already too late. We still have to do our best. By the way, Headmaster Li, don't tell anyone about the flying knife. Li Changjiang's expression froze. You know, there are too many implications. Anyway, don't tell anyone. I'll explain it to you in detail when we're settled. Qin Fangyang flew over. Li Changjiang looked at Qin Fangyang's back, feeling somewhat perplexed. He murmured, according to Mr. Qin's resume, he had fought in the Sun and Moon Pass for many years and had military achievements. However, we couldn't find out his real identity during the war. He knows this flying knife. Could it be that a big shot in the army gave it to Zhou Xiaoduo? If that's the case, this Zhou Xiaoduo, shaking his head, he decided not to think too much about it and brought his students to the Crystal Gate. From this moment on, the assassination incident had completely fermented. The entire Phoenix City was shocked because the UMNO Alliance's strength was too strong. In the entire Phoenix City, the number of soul transformation experts could be counted on one's fingers. Even core origin stage grandmasters were rare. And this time, just to assassinate Li Changjiang, they actually sent out 3 soul transformation experts, 9 core origin stage cultivators. This kind of strength was simply appalling. Then, were there any hidden forces? This was something that didn't even need to be thought about. Who would use all their trump cards at once? When Phoenix City's governor Wan Pingyuan heard this news, his face instantly turned pale. Just to assassinate Li Changjiang and Qin Fangyang, they sent out this kind of strength. Why? They hadn't shown their strength for so many years. Why did they send out such a big force this time? What were they trying to hide? It was simply terrifying to think about. Thinking of, what were they trying to hide? Governor Juan's face was simply whiter than snow. He immediately picked up the phone. Phoenix City requesting help. With his current strength, he was afraid that he couldn't handle it. What Governor Juan didn't expect was that an even bigger wave that he couldn't bear had already rushed over. The call from the Crystal Gate was from Li Changjiang. After Li Changjiang reported, Governor Juan's whole body went limp. There was Army Destroyer in second high. A student's soul was bewitched, and the suspected teacher had escaped, and this teacher had taught for 9 years. He suspected that there were more hidden forces. Big case. Super big case. A big case that was enough to affect the entire Central Plains. This is going to turn the sky upside down. The entire governor's mansion heard Governor Juan's roar of grief and indignation. Contact all departments immediately. Order the experts of the governor's mansion to go to second high immediately and control everyone. Only enter, not leave. Even a mosquito is not allowed to fly out of second high. Immediately. Immediately. Quickly. When Zhuo returned, the shop's door had already reopened. Dads Changlu and Uncle Nan were standing at the door. Ioyo, our little hero is back. Uncle Nan laughed and teased. Zhuo blushed, which was rare. I just want to throw a knife. I didn't do anything else, and I was so scared that I hid in the garbage, so embarrassing. No one should have seen it, right? Forget it. As long as Dad and Uncle Nan didn't see it, it's fine. Let's go. Zhuo Changlu closed the shop and said, buy some wine and food. Let's go home and drink. Okay. Uncle Nan was also very excited. Zhuo realized that his big heart was mostly inherited from his dad. Such a big thing had happened, but his dad didn't care at all. He was still in the mood to buy food and drink. His dad's willpower was quite impressive. Zhuo carried the vegetables he had bought and rushed back as fast as he could. Well, rather than saying that he was rushing back, it was more accurate to say that he was chased back. Zhuo Changlu and Uncle Nan walked side by side, saying that they were going to buy again. That was probably what they said. But Zhuo thought that he could completely understand. Men, especially brothers who haven't seen each other for a long time, need space to talk. It's only reasonable that they chased me away. I'm just a third wheel now. Zhuo thought that he was very understanding. While he was still on the way, the phone had already been dialed. Nian Nian. Yes? Sister, come back quickly. What's the matter? We have guests at our house. Dad wants to treat them. He set up a banquet at home to entertain them and bought a lot of delicious food. Are you still dreaming? Our dad? Treat? Have you seen him? If you want to eat delicious food, just say it. I can still afford 1 or 2 meals. It's real this time. If you lie, you'll be snot. Ah, really? Really? You must come back. He hung up the phone. Zhuo couldn't help but feel strange. Was he really going to treat them? What was going on? Zhuo, almost at the speed of light, took care of the things at hand and returned home. How rare. There was actually a day when her dad would treat her. As his biological daughter, she must take a good look at it. For so many years, not even a mosquito had flown into their house, let alone a person. This treat made Zhuo and Zhuo excited. Zhuo stepped into the house first. Wu Yuding was busy in the kitchen. At this time, she had already prepared a few dishes to be stir-fried. When she heard the door open, she didn't raise her head. Is it Doggy or Kitty? Mom, it's me, Doggy. You're back just in time. I need your help with something. Wu Yuding continued to give out orders in an orderly manner without stopping. Doggy, pick this dish. Wash that dish. Soak that 1,000 mountain bamboo shoots. Peel 5 or 6 heads of garlic and smash them into garlic paste. Heat up the wine. Your uncle Nan likes to drink hot wine. The wine is under your dad's desk. Take out the black jar. There are 4.5 jars in total. Heat up the half jar first. Remember to boil a pot of hot water. Zhuo worked without stopping. He stuck out his tongue and wagged his tail like a hard-working pug. The door opened. Zhuo came back. Mom, is Dad really going to treat us? Who is so important? He broke our family tradition of not having anyone enter our house for 18 years. Wu Yuding ignored her. Zhou Xiaonian came to Zhou Xiaoduo's side. Hey, doggy, are you working? You're so diligent. It's okay. Don't worry about me. Do it. I'll watch you do it. Good luck. However, Zhou Xiaonian didn't just watch. While watching Zhou Xiaoduo work, she kept harassing him. She pulled Zhou Xiaoduo's hair, twisted his ears, pinched his nose, scratched his armpits, hit his scalp, and kicked his butt. Zhou Xiaoduo resigned himself to it. He was angry but didn't dare to say anything. This fully reflected the lowly nature of his family status. In the end, Wu Yuding couldn't stand it anymore. She scolded, Zhou Xiaonian, you wretched girl, when are you going to stop bullying my son? Zhou Xiaonian smiled shamelessly. Mom, I plan to bully your son for the rest of his life. Is that okay? You're crazy. Wu Yuding turned her head. Zhou Xiaonian, you look like you have nothing better to do. Zhou Xiaonian was terrified when she heard her mother's tone. She said pitifully, Mom, I was injured during the practice today. My leg hurts. She didn't dare to harass Zhou Xiaoduo anymore. She tried her best to put on an injured look and quickly slipped away. Before she left, she didn't forget to grab a piece of grilled sausage from the plate and throw it into her mouth. She pouted and limped to the side of the sofa. Her whole body collapsed. Then she chewed the sausage. There's nothing I can do. Wu Yuding glanced at her son, who was working hard. Then she looked at her daughter, who was paralyzed on the sofa. She couldn't help but sigh. Son, your life is over. Zhou Xiaoduo was dumbfounded. Oh? On the other side, Zhou Xiaonian felt that the previous limelight had passed. She stopped crying and pretending to be in pain. She took out her phone and started to play with it. Her leg, which was limping because of the pain, was now raised and swinging. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes in his heart. With such an image, if her suitors knew about it, they would all run away faster than the other. Can you believe it? Can you imagine it? The legendary ice snow goddess is actually like this in private? She's comparable to the foot-digging man for a while. The doorbell rang. Zhou Xiaoduo hurriedly looked over. Zhou Xiaonian stood up with a whoosh, and a cloud of spiritual energy rose from her body. But in the blink of an eye, she became spotless again, slim and graceful, and even her hair was smooth and smooth. Coupled with her unparalleled beauty and gentle temperament, she was already one of the most beautiful women in the world just by standing there. Zhuo Chonglu and Uncle Nan walked in side by side. Speaking of which, the 10th anniversary event is about to start. Please follow me if you haven't followed my Weixin public account. Open my Weixin subscription account and search for Wind Rides the World. So please recommend me. Chapter 73. Dad. Zhou Xiaonian took the initiative to greet him. Well, Nian, this is your Uncle Nan. Brother, this is my daughter, Zhou Xiaonian. You can call her Nian er. Hello, Uncle Nan. Zhou Xiaonian was reserved and shy, but at the same time, she was gracious and obedient. Brother Zhou, I really envy you. Uncle Nan was stunned when he saw Zhou Xiaonian. When he saw Zhou Xiaoduo, he was only envious of Zhou Chonglu. Now, when he saw Zhou Xiaonian, he was not only envious, but also jealous. Old Zhou, why are you so lucky? Your son is already so outstanding. I didn't expect your daughter to be even more outstanding. That's not right. It's too hateful. I'm envious and jealous. Zhou Xiaoduo stuck out his tongue angrily in the kitchen. When did you see Nian was excellent? Just a glance? Just a first impression? You are valuing girls over boys, okay? Don't you know that men and women are equal now? If you saw her lying on the sofa like she was paralyzed, would you still say that? And, even better, humph, men are all pigs, especially old men. Zhou Chonglu and Uncle Nan sat down on the sofa. Zhou Xiaonian was very obedient. She made tea, poured tea, and served tea. Her dignified demeanor coupled with her shy, delicate, and lovable expression made her look picturesque and indescribably beautiful. Uncle Nan liked her more and more. He said, Nian, Uncle Nan just came here. I don't have anything good with me. Let me give you a bead as a gift. Haha. Then he took out a bead with a strange fragrance and said, This is the bead. If you ask me, You can take it now. With your current age, it is suitable for you to take this look-fixing bead. Look-fixing bead? It's an appearance-fixing pearl? Zhou Xiaoyan's eyes lit up. The appearance-fixing pearl, as its name implied, was a treasure that could preserve one's youthful appearance. Legend had it that a single appearance-fixing pearl could allow the person who consumed it to maintain their youthful appearance for 10,000 years. In other words, it was immortality. To a woman, this was a divine medicine that could grant her immortality and eternal youth. Zhou Xiaoyan almost subconsciously opened her mouth to swallow it, but she stopped when the beads were about to reach her mouth. After thinking for a while, she reluctantly handed the beads to Zhou Chonglu. What? Zhou Chonglu glared at him. Give it to Mom at night. She'll be the happiest if you give it to her, Zhou Xiaoyan whispered. What do you mean? She'll be the happiest if I give it to her. Your mom doesn't need it, Zhou Chonglu said with a straight face. Whatever your Uncle Nan gives you is yours. Hurry up and take it. Zhou Xiaoyan thought for a long time, then took out a jade box and put it in. She said, I'll wait for 2 years. Before I take it. Uncle Nan laughed. Smart? Zhou Xiaoyan was 19 years old. Although her body had developed much better than that of ordinary girls, her face was still a little immature. She was not at her best yet. A woman's best age was never 17 or 18 years old, but between 20 and 25 years old. Zhou Xiaoyan's thoughts were simple. She knew when she would be the most beautiful. Therefore, she wanted to take this look-fixing pill at the best time to maintain her best appearance for the rest of her life. Hey, Little Bear Nan. Little Bear Nan is here. Wu Yuding came with a plate of fish. Little Bear Nan? Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan almost laughed out loud. They tried their best to hold back their laughter with all their might. They didn't expect Uncle Nan, who was as powerful as a god, to have such a funny name. However, when they thought of their parents' habit of giving people nicknames, they felt that the name was probably not real. The muscles on Uncle Nan's face twitched, and then he stood up respectfully. He stood straight and tall, and his head shook the ceiling of the chandelier. Hello, sister-in-law. Good. Sit down. You don't have to be so restrained in your own home. Wu Yuding smiled, put down the dishes, and immediately turned back to the kitchen. Uncle Nan breathed a sigh of relief and sat down. However, his voice was much lower than before. Brother Zhou, sister-in-law is getting more and more beautiful. Uncle Nan was complimenting him. He didn't know whether he was flattering his father or his mother. A moment later, a total of 12 dishes were placed on the table. The wine that had been warmed early was also served. The aroma filled the air. Uncle Nan insisted on waiting for Wu Yuding to eat together, so it was delayed until now. Brother, long time no see. Let's have a toast. Let's have another. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan sat down. The siblings looked at each other. Obviously, they felt that this meal was a little strange. The strangeness was too obvious. Every time Zhou Chonglu and Wu Yuding proposed a toast, Uncle Nan couldn't help but stand up. What was this? Polite? But wasn't this too polite? Little bear. Wu Yuding smiled and served the dishes. Sit down and talk. We're eating as a family. Why do you keep standing up? You're not tired, but I'm tired of watching. It's not easy for you to come. Let Xiao Duo and Xiao Ninji propose a toast to you. Uncle Nan's face suddenly became bitter. He murmured, Toast to me. I'm already done. Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan didn't understand what he meant. They stood up and proposed a toast. Uncle Nan, welcome. Let's toast to you. We hope you'll come often in the future. Okay. Uncle Nan raised his head and drank a glass of wine in one gulp. For a moment, his heart was like a yellow lotus. Come often? Only his grandson would come often. Wu Yuding smiled and ignored Uncle Nan's resistance. She filled his glass again. Little Nan, what do you think of my son and daughter? Good. Really good. Uncle Nan hurriedly gave her a thumbs up. Sister-in-law, you're so good at giving birth. It's wonderful. The flattery was so awkward that Zhou Xiaoduo and Zhou Xiaoyan almost laughed out loud. Wu Yuding sighed and said with a complicated expression, Now I'm really depressed. The brother and sister have both embarked on the path of cultivation. Your brother Zhou and I are just two ordinary people. Now we don't even have the strength to truss a chicken. I don't know what cultivation method is best for them. Uncle Nan's expression eased at once, as if he was a criminal who had been hanged by the neck and heard that he was being pardoned. He said happily, I thought it was something serious. Isn't it just a better cultivation method? I have it here. Then he began to pull out 2 blood-red jade pendants from his space ring. After a long time, he took out 2 blood-red jade pendants and said, This Moon Sutra is very suitable for women to cultivate. I think the girl is beautiful, and intelligent. Her talent is even better. She will be able to cultivate this cultivation method with twice the result with half the effort. What do you think, sister-in-law? Moon Sutra? Hearing this name, Zhuoxiaoyan was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. She was different from Zhuoxiaoduo. At this moment, Zhuoxiaoduo was like a duck listening to the thunder fog. At most, he could feel that this cultivation method seemed to be good. However, Zhuoxiaoyan knew very well that this Moon Sutra was a supreme cultivation method that had been lost for many years. It was said that a long time ago, there was a woman who succeeded in cultivating the Moon Sutra. She was invincible in the world. Later, she used this cultivation method as the foundation to build a world. It was said that the moon in the sky now was the world built by that woman. Of course, this was just a legend. However, the Moon Sutra was very powerful and amazing. It could be seen that it was amazing. Give this to me. Zhuoxiaoyan took the blood-red jade pendant in disbelief and murmured, The foundation of my cultivation method now is the cultivation method of Kunlun Taoism. This doesn't conflict, right? Kunlun Taoism? Uncle Nan was relieved. He picked up his wine glass and gulped it down. Then, he laughed and said without thinking, Kunlun Taoism is so spicy. Cough, cough, cough. What I mean is, the cultivation method of Kunlun Taoism is actually not bad. However, it is still inferior to the Moon Sutra. Anyway, there won't be any conflict. Halfway through his words, he saw Wu Yuding's faint smile. Uncle Nan immediately became elegant again. However, the word elegant really didn't match his physique. It didn't match at all. As for the other one, give it to our son. Sigh, when I was building my foundation, I didn't find a suitable cultivation method. As a result, my foundation was damaged and I didn't have the capital to cultivate this flaming Sun Sutra. It has been in my hands for many years, and I have no use for it. Now that I have finally met my nephew, I am very happy, Uncle Nan said. Unlike the famous Moon Sutra, Zhuoxiaoyan had never heard of the Flaming Sun Sutra. However, she guessed that it should be at the same level as the Moon Sutra. You two keep it first, Uncle Nan said. Your parents are. Ahem, they are ordinary people. I will stay here for a few more days. Tomorrow, or the day after, I will impart the cultivation method to you too. You will be fine once you digest it. Thank you, Uncle Nan. The siblings hurriedly thanked him. This cultivation method couldn't be done by ordinary people unless they had a very close relationship, such as master and disciple, father and son, etc. The siblings looked at each other and saw the thoughts in each other's eyes. This Uncle Nan was actually a master? Dad and Mom are ordinary people. How could they have a master as a friend? And this master was clearly very respectful to Dad and Mom. This was a bit unbelievable. Wu Yuding said with a smile, We haven't seen each other for many years. Little Bear has traveled extensively and made a lot of money. No. I am just trying to make a living. How could I enter your eyes? Sister-in-law, please. This little brother will toast you. Wu Yuding drank the wine and said, There is something that really gives me a headache. Uncle Nan was suddenly a little restless. His face was a little pale. He said, What is it that can give you a headache? Wu Yuding sighed and said, Isn't it because of our children's debt that we can't repay? Now that our son and daughter are both practicing martial arts, the school fees and star soul stones are still fine. But I heard that cultivators also need high-quality materials to forge weapons. Our family doesn't have any connections in this area. Uncle Nan sighed and said, Hey, what kind of problem is this? It is hard to say if they want weapons. I am not talking about weapons. I am talking about materials. Wu Yuding said, These two children are still far from being finalized. It is still too early to talk about life weapons. Now it is better to prepare good materials. Don't you think so, little Nan? Uncle Nan's face twitched as he said, "Don't worry, sister-in-law. When I leave, I'll leave them with enough 1,000 fantasy gold so that they can refine it themselves. What do you think?" Wu Yuding covered her mouth and said in surprise, 10 tons? How can we use so much? Little bear, you are too kind. These two brats are really lucky. All the recommendation votes? Brothers are too kind. I am really lucky. Chapter 74. 10 tons? Uncle Nan's hand, which was holding the wine, froze in midair. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His broad face became even more snow-white, deathly pale. 10 tons? I'm very puzzled. Sister-in-law, from what I said. Where did you hear the words 10 tons from? Where did that come from? But he really didn't dare to say it out loud. In the end, he could only turn his neck stiffly to look at Zhuo Changlu. Your wife is already like this. Are you just going to watch and not do anything about it? Zhuo Changlu looked at Wu Yuding sternly and frowned. Tinger, this is too inappropriate. You asked for 15 tons. Where is Xiaonan going to get the money? What if Xiaonan refuses? How embarrassing will that be? Uncle Nan's face turned ashen at a speed visible to the naked eye. Looking at the table full of food and wine, he suddenly felt that the food was tasteless. He had completely lost his appetite. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have come for this meal. It turned out that the rumors were true. No one could make Zhuo Changlu treat them to a meal. Once they were treated, they would have to go through a mountain of swords and a sea of flames. They would be squeezed dry. The table was silent for a moment. After a while, Zhuo Changlu said slowly, Xiaonan, brother, don't be embarrassed. Brothers will take care of everything for you. Your sister-in-law doesn't know her manners. She asked for an exorbitant price and offended you. Please don't take it to heart. Uncle Nan's face turned even paler. He stared at the wine glass and said in a sobbing tone, Brother Zhuo, what are you saying? A little 1,000 fantasy gold is nothing. How can you be embarrassed? It's not difficult. It's not difficult at all. It's just a drizzle. Yes, a drizzle. Zhuo Xiaoyan and Zhuo Xiaoduo were still young and inexperienced. They didn't know what 1,000 fantasy gold was, so they just listened and watched curiously. Uncle Nan took out a space ring and said with a pleading tone, Sister-in-law, I only have 8 tons. Please keep it. The next time I come, I'll bring you the rest. What do you think? Only 8 tons? Wu Yuding smiled and said, I was just joking. Look at you. You took it seriously. Take it back. Take it back. What are you doing? You're a guest from afar. It's a big favor. You're making me feel like I'm blackmailing you. This is too embarrassing. With lightning speed, Uncle Nan took out another space ring and said, Actually, the 1,000 illusion gold is too soft, and its appearance is too singular. I have 8 tons of heavenly witchcraft copper here. The two can be mixed and used to forge weapons. It's a perfect combination. Wu Yuding smiled faintly and lowered her head to pick up the food. I'll use the heavenly witchcraft copper to pay. Uncle Nan said, Pay. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, a ton of 1,000 fantasy gold? Zhuo Changlu waved his hand impatiently and said, We're brothers. Why are you treating me like an outsider? Can't 8 tons make up for 1 ton? Tinger, you can't go overboard. Come, let's drink. Uncle Nan nodded like he was pounding garlic. Yes, 1 ton. Wu Yuding smiled gently and said, Your brother's temper is getting worse and worse. He scolds me every day. I'm scared of him. Sigh, my status in this family is getting lower and lower. Not many people take my words seriously. Sigh, I'm so weak. Uncle Nan's forehead was covered in sweat. He laughed dryly and didn't know what to say. Wu Yuding stretched out her hand and took the 2 space rings. She said faintly, I'm just an ordinary person with no cultivation. What can I see? Just let your brothers take a look. Don't give him too much. Uncle Nan grinned, and his whole body stiffened. Zhuo Changlu took the rings and looked at them. He said, There are some astral souls jade in here. Hurry up and take them out. Isn't this a lot? It's not appropriate. No need. It's a piece of cake for my nephew and niece to cultivate. Uncle Nan laughed dryly. Then I'll accept it. You two brats, why aren't you toasting your Uncle Nan? Zhuo Changlu said seriously. Little Nian, Xiao Duo, hurry up and thank your Uncle Nan. Your Uncle Nan is very powerful. The entire South is his world. He's one of the richest people in the Yinwu Empire. Uncle Nan is generous and doesn't care about these things. If it were our family, we wouldn't be able to afford them even if we bought iron pots. Uncle Nan's, but seemed to be nailed. He twisted and turned and laughed. Ha 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 ha. Little Nan, eat, eat. Thank you, sister-in-law. Little Nan, is sister-in-law's food good? It's good. It's good. It's delicious. Do you still want to eat? No. No. I mean, I want to eat it every day. Oh, then stay for a few more days this time. I'll cook for you every day. It's no trouble. It's okay. It's okay. Uncle Nan's face turned serious. He said apologetically, Brother Zhua, sister-in-law, I'm a few years old. I actually forgot something important. I'm afraid I'll have to leave tomorrow morning. I'm really sorry. My memory is getting more and more useless. Wu Yuding was stunned. But your niece and nephew haven't learned the cultivation method yet. I'll settle it for them tonight. Uncle Nan laughed heartily. It's a small matter, a small matter. You're leaving tomorrow? Zhuo Xiaoduo was a little anxious. He stood up immediately. Uncle Nan, you must stay for a few more days. Also, I have something to talk to you about. It was rare for such a master to come, and he was a friend of his parents. Could he solve the problem of Nian Nian's cat while he was at it? Leave? How could that be? Uncle Nan wiped his sweat. Xiaoduo, Uncle Nan really has something to do. Next time, next time. But Zhuo Xiaoduo was anxious. He frowned and thought about how to phrase it. How should he say it? Wu Yuding said apologetically, How could you say that? I'm really sorry for making you spend so much money and work so hard. If you really leave in such a hurry, what about the money you brought with you to pay for the Astral Soul Stone? I'm sure you won't be able to pay it tomorrow morning. Then I'll owe you. It's not appropriate. Besides, Xiaoduo is so reluctant to leave you. Why don't you stay for a few more days? Uncle Nan laughed. We're brothers. Brothers Hua, and I have no relationship. Haha, it's a small matter. It's not worth mentioning. Well, we can only wait until the next time you deliver the goods. Then we'll settle the debt together. At that time, I'll personally cook for you and treat you well. Wu Yuding looked very regretful. Aya, my memory is so bad. How could I forget such an important matter? Uncle Nan said seriously, from July onwards, I'll go to the Wu people's mainland to buy some goods. This trip will take at least 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years, maybe 8 or 9 years. Next time, let Dongfang come again. Dongfang, ha ha ha, you're more familiar with each other. Ha ha ha. Dongfang will also bring the rest of the 1,000 fantasy gold. Uncle Nan said and laughed. His face actually softened a lot. Dongfang, don't blame me for not being loyal. You offended me in the past. After that, there was really nothing else. Uncle Nan and Zhuo Changlu raised their glasses and drank together. The atmosphere returned to its original harmony. Finally, both the host and the guest were happy. Well, both the host and the guest were happy. Xiao Nan, I'll have to trouble you tonight. Do you want to do it in the living room or on the balcony? Is there any risk in doing this? Wu Yuding asked. What risk? The living room is fine. Uncle Nan said heartily, I'll be done here in the time it takes sister-in-law and brothers what to drink tea. Okay, Uncle Nan. Zhuo Xiaoduo struggled. I really have something to tell you. Cut the crap. Let's talk after you've finished. Uncle Nan forced Zhuo Xiaoduo into a pose in no time. Holding the jade slip in his hand, he ignored Zhuo Xiaoduo's struggle and slapped Zhuo Xiaoduo. Zhuo Xiaoduo fainted, and Uncle Nan began to do it savagely. Are you kidding me? Do you still have something to say? If you still have something to say, I'll just walk away naked. 2 hours later, Zhuo Xiaoyan and Zhuo Xiaoduo fainted at the same time. The 2 jade slips had already turned into powder. Uncle Nan was sweating profusely. After thinking for a while, he stole a glance at Zhuo Changlu and Wu Yuding. He seemed to want more. So, he bent down and patted Zhuo Xiaoyan and Zhuo Xiaoduo on the shoulder. Then, he stood up. Brother Zhua, sister-in-law, I didn't disappoint you. The transfer is complete. Thank you for your hard work. Drink some water. Wu Yuding smiled. No, no. Uncle Nan refused again and again. Brothers Wa, sister-in-law, I'm leaving now. I won't come to say goodbye to you tomorrow morning. How can that be? It's already past midnight. You have to stay at home for the night. No, 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 no. Uncle Nan refused again and again. I really have something important to do. Really, brother, sister-in-law, I'm leaving. Don't send me off. Ha ha ha, don't be so polite. With a hearty laugh, Uncle Nan finally left. That night, the guards of Phoenix City felt like they had seen an alien. Hey, did you know? Around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I think I saw a 100-meter-long heavy truck flying in the sky. It was flying very fast. Are you fucking drunk? A 100-meter-long heavy truck flying in the sky? And very fast? It's true, I swear. I really saw it. Fuck you. Are you confused by your fever? It's true. I can swear that I really saw it. There was a person under the truck. It seemed like that person was carrying the truck and flying in the sky. He to it. Fuck off. Only an idiot would believe you. That's hilarious. How deranged must this person be to see a person carrying a 100-meter-long truck flying in the sky and flying at an extremely fast speed? Hee. Youngsters nowadays don't even use their brains to make up lies. Zwa family. Xiao Nan was really scared this time. If he wanted to drive away, he should have waited until dawn. He actually carried the truck and ran away in the middle of the night. You really scared him this time. Am I the one who scared him, or are you the one who scared him? Humph, that night, a big case happened in Phoenix City. The case was so big that it was shocking. The whole Phoenix City was shaken. The Azure Dragon Gang that had been controlling the underground forces of Phoenix City was uprooted in one night. The gang leader, Zhang Daqian, and his 4 Vajras, 8 protectors, more than 10 branch leaders, and all the gang members in the headquarters were killed. The total number of people had reached a horrifying 400. Basically, all the higher-ups of the Azure Dragon Gang were killed in one fell swoop. Early in the morning, the whole Phoenix City was talking about it. The city guard's mansion, the governor's mansion, the inspection bureau, Star Shield, everyone was busy. More than 700 martial artists were killed. In just a few days, the army destroyer incident happened in the day, and at night, another big gang was wiped out. The time interval was too short, too dense. Governor Wan Pingyuan felt that his head was about to explode. 3 days. More than 1,000 martial artists died in 3 days. This was a huge incident. The second high school had just started, and all their efforts were put in there, especially the Azure Dragon Gang. Who did they offend? This was too fucking neat. I know what you were thinking. Uncle Nin stayed, and everything was solved. Xiaoyan's crisis was over. Am I right? But then what am I going to write? Am I right? I won't write this kind of plot for the time being. I racked my brains to come up with this plot. Should I give you a recommendation? This chapter has 3,500 words. Is it sincere enough? Bosses, reward the newbie writer. Chapter 75. Zhou Xiaoduo also had a headache. Although it didn't matter to him how many people died, Zhou Xiaoduo didn't care. After all, it had nothing to do with him. But he really did have a headache. When he opened his eyes in the morning, the first thing he felt was a swelling pain in his head. The entire contents of the Flaming Sun scripture, no matter how big or small, were all packed up and poured into Uncle Nan's head. When he received the enlightenment, Zhou Xiaoduo felt lucky that his head didn't explode. But Zhou Xiaoduo immediately endured the pain and rushed out. Where's Uncle Nan? He left. He left in the middle of the night. Wu Yuding said lightly. Nan Xiaoxiong's task was completed. Why would he stay? Left? Zhou Xiaoduo was annoyed. Why did he leave? Is something the matter? Nothing. Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly thought of something. He came over and said, Mom, if Uncle Nan is such a master, then you and Dad must be awesome too, right? After all, birds of a feather flock together. Birds of a feather flock together? Wu Yuding hit Zhou Xiaoduo on the head with a spoon. She said angrily, How can you say that? Then she said, When your dad and I were young, we went out to travel. At that time, we met your Uncle Nan. Because of a coincidence, We saved his life several times. But our cultivation, Wu Yuting sighed. Your dad and I really don't have it. There was a faint helplessness in her eyes. Seeing how hard her son and daughter cultivated every day, how could she not help if she could? But now, she really couldn't help at all. Mom, don't be sad. So what if we don't have cultivation? Zhou Xiaoduo saw that his mother was a little sad. He hurriedly hugged her and said, Nian Nian and I will be filial to you too. We will definitely let you and Dad live comfortably. Live 100 years. Yes, 1,000 years. 100 years and 1,000 years? Wu Yuting laughed. Go brush your teeth. Your mouth is full of smell. Zhou Xiaoduo brushed his teeth as he read the Flaming Sun Sutra. Originally, the Flaming Sun scripture only had a few thousand words, but Uncle Nan had also imparted the insights of many predecessors into it. One had to know that this cultivation method was abnormally profound. It was divided into many levels and stages, and each stage contained the personal insights of many people, which were all imparted to him. So much so that in Zhou Xiaoduo's ears, it was no different from hundreds or thousands of people quarreling inside. They quarreled until their heads were heavy and their feet were light. Flaming Sun Sutra, Part 1. Flaming Sun. There were comments below. First of all, what kind of fucking lousy cultivation technique is this? Even if I practice it until my chicken is bigger than my head, I still can't feel what it says about entering the great sun and shining in all directions. What kind of feeling is this? I also can't feel the so-called Dantian red as the sun, blood like magma entry feeling. I feel some kind of high emotion every day, so hard that it's about to explode. I've been in the brothel for 3 months. What the fuck? Now all the brothel girls want to serve me for free. Is this a secret technique that specializes in practicing the lower 3 paths? Second of all, I feel like I've been cheated. I've been fucking cultivating for a year, and now I'm working in a brothel. I've become a top hostess, and the most popular one at that. The customers here are really rich. Third of all, it's really not easy. I've finally reached the entry level. Just yesterday, the iron pot used to cook at home was melted by my sunfire. It's a piece of cake. No difficulty at all. Fourth of all, I'm so envious. Fifth of all, I'm envious +1 a series of following comments. I'm envious +1 I am envious +2 I am envious plus. I'm envious +10086. A certain comment. Senior on the second comment, please tell me about your experience. I'm also in the service industry now. Zhou Xiaoduo was dumbfounded. This is the Flaming Sun Sutra? This can't be the truth of this sutra, right? Zhou Xiaoduo doubted his life. Could it be that I've been cheated by Uncle Nan? Zhou Xiaoduo hurriedly checked the circulation route of the spiritual energy in his body. As expected, he found that the established route had been completely changed. The original circulation route had been completely changed. At this moment, although he didn't deliberately circulate his spiritual energy, the spiritual energy in this route was already flowing and circulating on its own. After a moment of inner inspection, Zhou Xiaoduo was shocked to find that as the spiritual energy continued to circulate, the fire of the astral souls in his dantian was in a state of vitality and was burning fiercely. As a result, the large amount of energy stored in his meridians, flesh, and bones due to drinking a lot of spiritual liquid was being drawn out bit by bit along with the new circulation route of the spiritual energy. It was being refined and filled with the fire of the astral souls. Zhou Xiaoduo was shocked. He silently circulated the spiritual energy in his body to the palm of his hand. Immediately, a wave of heat surged, scorching and threatening. He could faintly feel that the heat in his dantian was rising and the blood in his body was surging like magma. Is this the so-called dantian red sun? Blood like magma? Zhou Xiaoduo was a little complacent. I'm really a genius. So many people have cultivated for a year or two without making much progress, but I've reached the beginner stage in just one night. Moreover, I've automatically cultivated to the beginner stage without even knowing it. If this isn't a cultivation genius, then what is? The so-called, it's lonely at the top, is probably nothing more than this. A feeling of being an expert arose spontaneously. He didn't know that Uncle Nan had worked himself half to death last night in order to complete the infusion, and Uncle Nan's level of cultivation was far beyond Zhou Xiaoduo's. Bah, Xiaoduo's knowledge. Uncle Nan's level of cultivation was even beyond Xiaoyan's knowledge. This was a little scary. Xiaoyan's strength was not weak, at least not in Phoenix City. But to be able to surpass her knowledge, the level of strength was unfathomable. And to be able to make an expert like him half to death, one could imagine how high the consumption was. However, Uncle Nan shouldn't have been so tired. It should have been easier to work over a few days. But he didn't want to stay for a second longer. If he stayed any longer, he was afraid that his ancestral grave would be dug up. And Xiaoyan and Xiaoduo would also benefit from this. It would definitely benefit them for the rest of their lives. From the looks of it, there are two ways to cultivate the Flaming Sun scripture. One is to absorb the power of the sun's true fire to strengthen one's foundation. The other is to transform the power of the astral souls into the power of the true fire to strengthen one's cultivation. Xiaoduo was relieved. He didn't lack resources now. It would be enough for him to use for a while. Just when he thought about the new cultivation method, Xiaoyan leisurely floated in. Dog, did you have any problems with cultivating the Flaming Sun scripture? No problems. I've officially started it. It's going very smoothly. Xiaoduo puffed out his chest and said with a nonchalant attitude. He was showing off. SK. Xiaoyan rolled her eyes. Do you think Uncle Nan's enlightenment is just to pass on the cultivation method to us? The insights of the predecessors are secondary. The most important thing is to help us start it. It saves us from the initial exploration. It would be strange if you didn't start it. Is that so? Xiaoduo's face didn't turn red. Nian Mao, I feel that I can defeat you soon. The kind that will make you unable to get out of bed. Xiaoyan snorted disdainfully. She opened her cherry mouth and a white mist appeared. Xiaoduo suddenly felt the temperature in the room drop by 40 to 50 degrees. He couldn't help but shiver. What's this? This is the moon scripture, Xiaoyan said reservedly. What I'm using now is just a little bit of power. You can use your Flaming Sun scripture to attack me and experience your own progress. Xiaoduo was shivering from the cold. Queen, I beg you, please retract your divine art. Xiaoyan dispelled the yin energy and went to make breakfast. Xiaoduo felt a little relieved. Looking at Nian Mao's face, it seemed that the death energy had been driven away a little, although it was still covered by dark clouds. But it seemed to have been reduced a little. It could be reduced. Xiaoduo's spirits were lifted. As he continued to explore this new cultivation art, he increasingly felt that this Flaming Sun scripture was truly wondrous. After a while, Wu Yuding also got up. She made breakfast with Xiaoyan and asked casually, "Oh right, I forgot to ask you too. What kind of weapon do you want to use in the future?" Nian Mao can now choose a life weapon. As for Duo, although there's still time, you have to think about it. Remember to think about it when you're free. What do you mean by think about? Literally, Wu Yuding said, I heard that a martial artist at your level doesn't deserve a weapon. Xiaoduo tilted his head and his cheeks twitched. He had a toothache and muttered, then I'll have to think about it carefully. I want to use a sword, Xiaoyan said. Master has always asked me to use a short sword to fight the enemy, but I want to use a long sword. A long sword or a short sword is not a problem. Think about the style and ask your father to make one for you. How about a long sword or a short sword? Your uncle sent so many materials. It's not a problem to make a few swords for you. Okay. What about you? Mom, you just asked me to think about it. How can I think about it in such a short time? Xiaoduo's mind was rolling. Finally, he had an inexplicable feeling. Among the people who attacked Qin Fengyang, the one who used 2 sledgehammers seemed to be very powerful. He asked tentatively, how about, I use a hammer? What? Hammer? Hearing this, the mother and daughter's eyes widened. Before the update, I found that I missed a part. Although you didn't see it, I still refined it. So please recommend me. Chapter 76. Ahem. Mom, Xiaoduo can't use weapons now. Let him think about it. There's no need to rush. Xiaoyan pictured Xiaoduo waving 2 sledgehammers in her mind. She couldn't look at it directly. It was like a lobster dancing with sledgehammers. So she tried to persuade him tactfully. Then I'll think about it. Think about it more. Zhuo followed her advice. Her cell phone vibrated. Zhuo Xiaoyan took it out and looked at it. Her face suddenly changed. She said, Mom, I won't eat. I have something to do. I have to go. As she spoke, she hurriedly ran into her room and changed into a set of clothes in an instant. She was wearing a white shirt and a white skirt. Then, she shot out of the window and made a turn in the air before disappearing into the sky. Cell phone. Yes, cell phone. Zhuo remembered that he hadn't checked his cell phone for a long time. He vaguely remembered that the last message was from Lu Jiansheng. He took it out and looked at it. He muttered to himself, damn, I didn't expect that the guy I beat up had a gang background. So powerful. Fortunately, I ran away quickly. The Azure Dragon Gang, the biggest gang in the local area. I don't know if they will come to stop me again in the future. Zhuo was worried. At this time, there was still a long time before school started, but number 2 high school was already on guard. It could be said that they were on guard in all directions. Especially at the school gate, there were several people in robes standing with their hands behind their backs and eyes like eagles. A little distance away, there were teams of soldiers patrolling from time to time. The students who arrived at school were only allowed to enter but not leave. Zhuo went all the way to school. At first glance, he was shocked by the strict posture. Was it because of the gang who attacked the principal and teacher Qin yesterday? Under the gaze of countless masters, Zhuo hurriedly entered the school with his tail between his legs. Even after he successfully entered the school, he was still a little scared and shuddered. As soon as they entered, they saw 10 big men with pale faces hugging trees on one side of the sports field. Well, to be more precise, they were shackled to the trees with handcuffs and shackles. Judging from the state of these people, it was estimated that these 10 brothers had been shackled for the whole night. It was none other than the 10 that had stopped him. These people were separated from each other by quite a distance. In front of each of them, there was one person interrogating them, and another person taking notes. Then, there was another person standing to the side with his hands behind his back and a dark face. It was unknown when he would pull out his gun and shout, "You're lying! I'll kill you!" Before he could finish his sentence, a loud roar came from the other side. "You're lying! I'll kill you!" And so on and so forth. It was basically the same sentence, rising and falling one after another in an endless stream. The 10 people who had exhausted their physical strength to the limit and were also mentally exhausted were scared out of their wits. Their faces were pale. Your companions have already confessed. Now, you're the only one left. Try being stubborn again. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that they would cause such a huge commotion just to kidnap a student. More than 2,000 masters had been mobilized, right? What kind of family's child were they trying to kidnap? Could it be the son of some feudal official? This was like poking a hornet's nest. Zhuo just stood at the side and watched curiously. Then, someone came over. "Student, you're not allowed to watch here. Please leave immediately." Oh. Zhuo was unusually obedient. He turned around and left without stopping. If he didn't want to watch, then so be it. He didn't want to watch. After taking a few steps, he found Li Chenglong watching the commotion from afar. "What's going on?" Zhuo walked over and asked. "What's going on? This is too big." Li Chenglong's face was pale. He was obviously frightened, but there was also a sense of schadenfreude. First, it said that the principal was assassinated yesterday. Zhuo nodded. "I know about it. I saw it with my own eyes." Second, it said that the principal's assassination has a lot of implications. There are spies from the UMNO Alliance in the school. They're investigating it. Li Chenglong was indeed well informed. "I also thought of this." Third, the Azure Dragon Gang was destroyed. Everyone in the gang was killed. Little Fatty's face was pale. He was gloating. The Azure Dragon Gang was destroyed? This time, Zhuo was shocked. "Yeah." Li Chenglong looked around and whispered in Zhuo's ear, "Do you remember Zheng Dai?" "Proud? Who's that?" Zhuo was confused. "That day when you went at class 1, other than Cheng Fangji, he scolded the most and his mouth was the dirtiest. When he fought, he was especially ruthless. Don't you remember?" He's always been the most arrogant in the school. He's always surrounded by more than a dozen people. Li Qinglong was stunned. Zhou Xiaoduo beat people up these 2 days. Cheng Fangji and Zheng Dei were the most ruthless. In the end, he said he didn't know. Little Fatty felt a little confused. That's him? What's wrong? Zhou Xiaoduo remembered. What's wrong? Li Qinglong snorted and said, this guy is the young leader of the Azure Dragon Gang. Do you see the 10 people under the tree? They are from the Azure Dragon Gang. Hiss. Zhou Xiaoduo was shocked. These 10 people wanted to catch me yesterday afternoon, but they were caught by teacher Lu Jiansheng. So many things happened. These 10 people are still alive. We should really thank teacher Lu Jiansheng and the others. Little Fatty sighed. Otherwise, if they were in the Azure Dragon Gang last night, they would probably be buried by now. The entire Azure Dragon Gang, from top to bottom, died collectively. Now the remaining people of the Azure Dragon Gang are in our school. Well, it's these 10 people and their young leader, Zheng Dei. Little Fatty looked melancholy. Zheng Dei, this guy, from now on, can take a family photo alone. 2 fucking buns are enough to fill the whole family. Little Fatty seemed to be sighing, but no matter how Zhou Xiaoduo listened, he could feel that he was rejoicing in other people's misfortune. As they were talking, Qin Fangyang came. His face was still a little pale. Yesterday afternoon, he immediately rushed back to catch Mu Yunfeng, but Mu Yunfeng had disappeared when he came back. This made Qin Fangyang unhappy until now. When he saw Zhou Xiaoduo at a glance, he immediately walked over. Why are you so late? Hurry up and come with me. Qin Fangyang walked in front in a hurry. At first glance, he looked normal, but Zhou Xiaoduo heard a voice as soft as a mosquito. Remember, you didn't make a move yesterday. You don't know anything. Zhou Xiaoduo's heart suddenly trembled, but his face still remained calm. He was just like how he usually was. He followed Qin Fangyang all the way into the principal's office. He saw that the huge office was already full of people. At a glance, there were at least 17 or 18 people in the room. It was full and crowded, almost squeezed into an egg. At this moment, the person sitting in the middle was not the principal of number 2 high school, Li Changjiang, but a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s with a smile on his face. This person's body was slightly fat, but his eyes were particularly clear and sharp. The hair on his head was not thick, and he looked like he was balding. One side of his hair was pulled over to cover his shiny scalp. In addition to this person, the more conspicuous ones were the 2 officers sitting next to him. The white battle robes they wore were different from the rest, and the military badges they wore were even more dazzling and pleasing to the eye. Zhou Xiaoduo looked around and found that Li Changjiang was sitting at a seat closer to the side. There was only a small stool under his butt, and he looked at the door from time to time. Director Jiang, Zhou Xiaoduo is here. Qin Fangyang brought Zhou Xiaoduo in and said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Zhou Xiaoduo knew what he meant. Needless to say, this room was full of high-ranking officials. Their administrative level was at least higher than Li Changjiang, the principal. Much higher, much higher. Hello, leaders. Hello, officers. Hello, principal, teachers. Hello, uncles who I don't know how to address. Anyway, hello, everyone. Zhou Xiaoduo's mouth was instantly as sweet as honey. His small face was white and rosy, obedient, sensible, and smart. His eyes were innocent, immature, and filled with curiosity and liveliness. What an honest, obedient, cute, sensible, and sweet-tongued young man. Many people in the room had similar praises in their hearts. Qin Fangyang subconsciously turned his head away. Li Changjiang also lowered his head and coughed softly. Looking at this piece of meat that could not be cooked, smashed, cut, or chewed was actually trying to act cute here, the 2 of them felt that they could not look straight at him. This child is not bad, very polite. The middle-aged man in the middle smiled and praised him. Because of the practice of martial arts from a young age, as long as the child has a little foundation, all of them want to have their nostrils pointed to the sky. Such a sensible and polite child is really rare. Li Changjiang's throat itched. He thought to himself, you probably haven't seen Zhou Xiaoduo's true manners yet. He coughed and said, Zhou Xiaoduo, this is Director Jiang of Star Shield. He asks you a question. You have to answer truthfully, understand? Duo nodded even more obediently and replied, "Yes, Principal." "Hello, Director Jiang." Director Jiang said pleasantly, "You're Duo? Well, aren't you afraid of me?" Xiaoduo's blushing face was full of smiles. "Director Jiang, what's there to be afraid of? If Principal Li hadn't said that you were the director, you wouldn't look like one at all. You look so kind, no different from the uncle in the park. You must be a good leader who specializes in doing good things for the people. It would be abnormal if I was afraid of you, right? When I first saw you, I only felt close to you. Where did fear come from?" Director Jiang laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha, little guy, you're not bad." Duo giggled and scratched his head in an honest and cute manner. He looked embarrassed by the sudden praise. Qin Fangyang's face turned red. He, who was always calm, could no longer stay calm. Duo, don't be nervous. I just want to ask you a few questions. Just treat it as a casual chat." Director Jiang said pleasantly. "I know, let's chat. Let me ask you." Director Jiang's face suddenly changed. He slammed the table with a bang. From his previous gentle and charming manner, he suddenly became vigorous and resolute. His voice was like thunder, shaking people's souls and making them lose their minds. "Why did you go to class 1 to cause trouble? What's your purpose? What do you know? Speak." With this anger, all the hair on the top of his head suddenly floated to one side, revealing his shiny scalp. Duo jumped in fright, because the scalp could actually reflect his own face. Suddenly, he had an idea. If he raised his head, wouldn't he be able to see his own but from the back of his head? Ordinary people didn't have this ability. It's about to be published. Brothers from all over the world, please support the official paid reading. Well, as usual, please recommend it. Chapter 77. Mom. Duo sat on the ground, his face pale. He stuttered, I want to pee. Speak." He slammed the table. Duo's face was pale and his body was trembling. He seemed to be scared out of his wits. Qin Fangyang grinned and his face twitched. He walked over and patted him on the shoulder. "Tell me the truth." A dozen pairs of cold eyes suddenly shone on Qin Fangyang like searchlights. Qin Fangyang's expression remained unchanged, and he took half a step back. Duo looked like he had just recovered from the shock. It's like this. They hit my classmate, so I wanted to hit them back." Speaking of this, he seemed to slowly regain his consciousness. He suddenly shouted, "Even if I couldn't beat them, I would at most be beaten up by them. No one can beat my classmate for no reason. This is too much. Even if it's for revenge, once is enough. Why did you go a second time?" Chief Zhang's eyes were like lightning. "Did you discover something?" "What did I discover?" Duo was at a loss. "Yes, I hate them when I see them. I realize that they are ugly, so I wanted to beat them up a few more times. If it wasn't for teacher who's pleading, I wanted to continue until I don't hate them anymore." "Then why did you go against Teacher Mu when you went in?" "I didn't go against teacher, absolutely not. Who spread this rumor about me? This is slander and nonsense." Duo was a little anxious in his heart. This matter seems to have gotten out of hand. Is he really going to punish me? I did whatever Teacher Mu said. She told me not to cause trouble, so I went out. How could I dare to go against teacher? I went after class and went back before class. I definitely didn't delay teacher's teaching. Then why did you still go after class and the next morning? Why did you do that? I didn't vent my anger enough. I still don't like them. I hate them everywhere. So I continued to beat them up. Duo stomped on the ground with the tips of his toes. Yes, I was too impulsive. I was too caught up in the moment. Teacher, I was wrong. I destroyed the atmosphere of unity on campus, affected the camaraderie between fellow students, and hindered the order of teaching. As he spoke, he suddenly raised his head, and his voice became more and more passionate. But I, at the beginning, was really only hot-blooded and full of loyalty. What I did was right to the heavens, to the earth, and to my conscience. I didn't let down my country. I didn't let down my people. I didn't let down the astral souls, and I didn't let down the tens of millions of years of glorious cultural heritage on the mainland. Silence filled the room. Even Chief Jiang was dumbfounded. What did I just ask? What was his answer? What the hell was going on? This was completely irrelevant, wasn't it? I'm asking, did you find anything? Chief Jiang had a headache. Discover what? Zhou Xiaoduo was startled. What can you discover? Oh, that Cheng Fangji has a scar on his face? The officials in the room once again felt a wave of helplessness. Chief Jiang skillfully shook his head, and the hair that had deviated from its fixed position was flung back to cover his scalp. He sighed. Zhou Xiaoduo, you can go back to class. Qin Fangyang left with Zhou Xiaoduo. What did the clear heart mirror say? Chief Jiang asked. It didn't lie. Every word was the truth. It came from the heart. Another middle-aged man, who had his head lowered, replied affirmatively. What a pity. Chief Jiang looked disappointed. I thought he was a perception-type genius who could detect the UMNO Alliance's spies with his senses. Sigh. Li Changjiang lowered his head, and his eyes rolled quietly. A perception-type genius? He remembered one thing. The evaluation of Zhou Xiaoduo's heterodox devil heart. His extraordinary mind was completely unaffected by the illusion, however. He forcefully suppressed it right away. Now, the whole school was almost under the UMNO Alliance. He really didn't know who to trust. Ruoyun was right. Let nature take its course. Don't harm the child because of a moment of impulse. At the end of the day, Zhou Xiaoduo was still a teenager. Chief Jiang said lightly, Mu Yunfeng left the school after school yesterday afternoon, and we lost track of him since then. It has been confirmed that all 50 students in the first class have been affected by the army obliteration charm. These 50 students are the elite students of the entire second high school. Chief Jiang's expression was indignant and melancholy. Chief Sun, such a big mistake has occurred. What kind of inaction and dereliction of duty is the Martial Arts Educational Bureau? A middle-aged man stood up, his face full of sweat. This will cause a huge uproar in society. Most of the children who can enter the elite class have good family backgrounds, and they are influential in Phoenix City. List the 9th batch of students who have graduated from Mu Yunfeng's teaching immediately and hand over their scores to Starshield. Everyone has to undergo the Crystal Pass test. Suspend all the duties and missions of these people. Yes. Isolate those 50 students temporarily to confirm the situation. Why don't we send them directly to the Crystal Pass? Another officer asked with a frown. There must be a spy among the students. Chief Jiang said indifferently, if we can't find this person, we can only isolate them forever. Yes. Also, Vice Principal Gao Yi of Second High School. Chief Jiang said, he was the one who introduced Mu Yunfeng to the school to teach, right? Who else did he introduce? Investigate all of them, including the classes he has taught and the students he has taught. Those who have graduated are also included. Li Changjiang stood up in shock. Chief Jiang, the scope of this incident is too big. If this is really the case, it could easily implicate tens of thousands of people. We still have to handle it carefully. Chief Jiang's gaze was as sharp as a needle. Handle it carefully? What if something goes wrong? Principal Li, can you bear the responsibility? Li Changjiang's face turned pale, and he kept quiet. How many students had graduated from second high school over the years? Many of them already held important positions in the army, and some held positions in politics and education. There were people from all walks of life. If Li Changjiang had to take responsibility for anything that went wrong in any of the positions, Li Changjiang felt that it would be better for him to hang himself as soon as possible. With so many people, who could guarantee that nothing would happen to any of them? What a joke. There was a sound at the door. The tall and thin Vice Principal Gao was brought in. Qin Fangyang brought Zhou Xiaoduo out of the office, but he did not send him to the classroom. Instead, he brought him back to his own teacher's office. Sit down. Teacher, don't you need to go back for another meeting? Zhou Xiaoduo was curious. His position is too high. What can I do? Qin Fangyang took a breath. Besides, I don't want to deal with this group of people. Qin Fangyang frowned as if he was thinking about something. His fingers tapped on the table unconsciously. After a long time, he said slowly, Zhou Xiaoduo, I need you to do me a favor. What favor? Teacher, Please tell me. As long as I can help you, I will do my best without hesitation. I just want you to help me read my fortune. Qin Fangyang raised his head. His eyes were filled with indescribable exhaustion and desolation. I want to know my fate in marriage. Fate in marriage? Zhou Xiaoduo was shocked. Teacher Qin's request was not a surprise or a shock, but a horror. Zhou Xiaoduo was still in shock. Qin Fangyang's phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Li Changjiang. Bring Zhou Xiaoduo to me later. Qin Fangyang put down his phone quietly. He raised his head and looked at Zhou Xiaoduo. A mysterious light flashed in his eyes. Teacher Qin, I wonder if you... Zhou Xiaoduo was cautious. He felt that Qin Fangyang was a little strange today. It seemed that he was not in his right mind. Zhou Xiaoduo had only been promoted to the warrior class for a few days. Strictly speaking, he was not familiar with Qin Fangyang. Due to his dignity as a teacher, he had never seriously looked at Qin Fangyang's face. How could a student stare at a teacher's face without blinking? Zhou Xiaoduo would occasionally sweep a glance, but at most, he would check if the other party was filled with black qi or if a calamity was about to befall him. If there was no danger, then it was fine. Teacher Qin, are you serious? I'm serious. Qin Fangyang took a deep breath and said in a low voice, These days, I've been feeling uneasy. I keep feeling that I'm going to lose something forever. Especially after I got injured, my senses have become sharper. I remember what you said before. If I didn't have a calamity, would I? Qin Fangyang did not continue. He turned around and sat upright. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at him seriously for a while and murmured, Teacher Qin, your face? I don't know what to say. As the saying goes, I'm a man of iron. Just say it. Qin Fangyang said, You're asking about fate, but you're separated. Probably because you're alone and can't find a companion. Zhou Xiaoduo's words were rather reserved. Based on Qin Fangyang's physiognomy, his marriage affinity wasn't just bad, it was extremely bad. Qin Fangyang nodded as expected and said, Just say it in detail. There's no need to worry. Teacher Qin, your marriage can be said to be full of twists and turns. Although you once had a harmonious and beautiful time, you soon fell into a state of separation. After that, you probably didn't want to let go and continued to search for this fate. Qin Wanru said with a smile, Teacher Qin, from what I've seen from your face, your fate is deep but shallow. Even if it's not a bad fate, it's definitely not a good fate. It can be said to be very bad. Qin Fangyang closed his eyes and exhaled softly. I'm afraid that teacher has been searching for her for many, many years. Zhou Xiaoduo spoke more cautiously than before. Qin Fangyang closed his eyes and said quietly, It's been a long time indeed. It's been 82 years and 4 months. 82 years. Hearing this number, Zhou Xiaoduo was stunned. Qin Fangyang looked like he was in his 30s, but he said that they had been separated for more than 80 years. Then how old was Teacher Qin now? As for his other half, she was probably part of the elderly population now, right? However, Zhou Xiaoduo thought about it and did not dare to ask this question. Your physiognomy is good. What you said about the past is accurate, but you still have to tell me directly. Can I still find her? Qin Fangyang lowered his head and asked in a low voice, Find her? Zhou Xiaoduo was a little upset. Teacher, your fate is to fly to the ends of the earth, to the ends of the earth. How are you going to find her? However, Zhou Xiaoduo carefully observed Qin Fangyang for a long time. He could faintly feel that there was still some connection between the two of them. However, the connection was too shallow, and it was difficult to continue. Zhou Xiaoduo pondered for 2 seconds and said, Teacher Qin, please write something for me to see. 1st of July, cough, cough. I'm now thinking about how many chapters to release. Headache. So please recommend me. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.